Typically, we are harder on others than ourselves when it comes to bad habits. They can be annoyances like someone who starts cracking their knuckles right next to you, or a friend of yours who you love very much but who constantly drops the word like into like every other sentence. Hey, but you've got one too. Everyone has at least one bad habit that they can't shake. Or can they? Welcome to Wellcast. This week, we took another viewer suggestion from Frantic Cow, who wrote in asking for a video on breaking bad habits. So today, you guessed it, we're going to examine why it's so darn difficult to give up chowing down on junk food or chowing down on your fingernails. We've also got a 4-step method for overcoming your biggest vice. Are you ready? First and foremost, how do bad habits even form? Studies by the National Institute of Health point to 2 main reasons. The first reason is repetition. If you do something often enough, say you twirl your pencil during class, your brain decides it can stop wasting precious neurons thinking about it. So it checks out and goes on vacation. You could be twirling your pencil through AP English, social studies, algebra, and trig without even thinking about it. The other way bad habits are formed is through positive reinforcement, which sounds like a really good thing, but it can be dangerous. Let's talk about that energy drink that you insist on sucking back when you're up late studying. Gives you a nice boost of energy, and it helps you get through to the end of that mind-numbingly boring paper you're writing on Chaucer. But the reason why this kind of habit is hard to break is that a nice surge of energy at 11 p.m. is an enjoyable feeling. And enjoyable feelings usually result in your brain releasing dopamine. This is partly why people often crave things that aren't even enjoyable for them anymore. The brain is jonesing for dopamine. But don't worry, my habitual compadres. Human beings are pretty amazing at changing and adapting. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to obliterate that bad habit in 4 easy steps. Pause and print this sheet at watchwellcast.com. Step 1. Let's start at the very beginning. It's a very good place to start. Write down the bad habit you're trying to quit. Start simple. Choose just one. Step 2. Learn to avoid your triggers. Take some time to think about the things that really make you crave doing your bad habit. If biting your nails is your vice, your triggers might be, that last-minute quiz. Oh no, I gotta pay my electric bill, or how much money do I have in my account for rent? List these triggers in section 2 of your worksheet. Next to these triggers, write a list of ways you can avoid them. For example, read your syllabus every week, or make sure that you plan for automatic deductions for your electric bill. Step 3, substitute your bad habits for not-so-bad habits. Basically, you want to teach your brain by repetition to learn a new habit. So, if you tend to bite your nails when you're stressed and alone in your living room, stock your refrigerator with carrots and celery so that you can reach for something else to chew on when you're stressed out. Write a substitution next to every trigger on section 3 of your worksheet. Step 4. Gather your army. You do not have to do this alone. Enlist your friends to help you defeat this bad habit. Start by telling them that you're planning on eliminating this bad habit, and you need their help. Just the simple act of letting them in on this battle that you're waging is a step in the right direction. Remember, your friends can be bodyguards. They'll stand between you and your brain. Tell them to police you. If they see you reaching for those nails to bite, give them the permission to remind you of your mission. Or even slap your hand. Whatever you want. All right, guys, let's recap. Today, you learned 4 steps for beating your bad habit. You decided which habit you wanted to kick. You figured out your triggers for this bad habit, and you decided on ways to avoid and replace these triggers with healthier alternatives. If all else fails, you learn to enlist your friends in the fight.
Tweet us at WatchWellcast.
Hey, friends and neighbors. Thursday, January 22nd. How about it? Welcome to the Bill Press Show this good Thursday, where you happen to be in this great land of ours. We welcome you on Free Speech TV and where you happen to be on the planet. We welcome you on TawkrTV, youtube.com/TawkrTV, TAWKR, youtube.com/Talker, TAWKR-TV. Tell your friends, tell your neighbors, this is the place to be to find out what's going on every day, early in the morning, and to join the conversation. And you know how to do it. Give us a call at 866-55-PRESS. Send us your comments on Twitter at BP Show and on Facebook at facebook.com/Bill Press Show. They cheated. Yep, that's what the official report says. 11 out of 12 of the balls the Patriots were using in their rout of the Indianapolis Colts turned out to have been deflated, making them easier to throw and easier to catch. We'll find out what the NFL is going to do, what kind of penalty they will lay down on the Patriots. But it throws a cloud over the entire Super Bowl. Even were the Patriots to win against the Seahawks, everybody's going to say they only got there by cheating. Meanwhile, President Obama has taken his State of the Union message on the road to Boise, Idaho yesterday, to Lawrence, Kansas today. And reaction continues from Capitol Hill. Democrats, for the most part, lining up in support of everything the president had in his State of the Union address, with the exception of his request for speeded up trade authority, executive authority to make whatever trade deals he wants. That's about the only part of the speech that Republicans say they like. They certainly are not going to join the president in raising the minimum wage because they think poor people don't vote for Republicans. Why should they help poor people? Yep, lots to talk about. Join the conversation at any time. 866-55-PRESS. Good to have you with us. Happy Thursday.
This is the Bill Press Show.
You know, sometimes when I'm walking down the street, I'm not necessarily looking out and seeing all these water-wasting lawns and people that aren't as connected to their neighbors and their lives as they could be. I'm walking down the street looking, going, edible oases, rainwater, fed landscape, and just looking at the possibility of these sort of landscapes up and down the streets of neighborhoods and communities all across this world. Small actions do ripple and they add up and they have a cumulative impact. And so when you're building upon your small mindful actions, you know, you have the confidence and the ability to take on something a little bit greater. That could be nice. This, in the context of where we're at as a planet with climate change and these really big issues and people that are more disconnected and less skilled than ever, it becomes even more amazing and powerful how much of a solution this is to design these ecological gardens and to come together with shared vision and shared voice. There's never been a time where your choices have mattered more. Doing something as simple as us transforming a landscape creates a model that anybody can look at far and wide, and you're sharing food and connecting and building skills together in your own neighborhood. It's a richer way to live in normal times, but in the new normal of climate change and erratic weather and economic upheaval, it becomes essential. Whether it's me, you, Gandhi, Che, MLK, Willy Wonka, whoever, past, present, or future, the power of our daily actions is all that we have. You know, and like our community said, give me a place to stand and a lever long enough and I'll move the world. And that's what those simple actions do. They move the world every day.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn turn down the AC. Or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is the Bill Press Show.
They cheated. Yep, the NFL investigation shows 11 out of 12 of the Patriot footballs used by the Patriot in their trouncing of the Colts. 11 out of 12 footballs were purposely deflated. So should they be able to play in the Super Bowl? What do you say? Hello, everybody. That big question looms over us all today. It is Thursday, January 22nd, and here we go with another edition of the Bill Press Show. So good to have you with us. Love starting the day with you, and love the fact that you make it a date every morning to get on the radio, your local progressive talk radio station. Start the way, the progressive way here with the Bill Press Show. Thank you for being there. And don't forget, give your local progressive talk station, you are so lucky to have one, give them all the support that you can and the sponsors that you hear on that program. We are coming to you live from Washington, D.C., our nation's capital. Just down the street from the United States Capitol building, in the shadow of the Capitol Dome, as we like to say. President Obama on the road, Congress here in town with one more vote before they take off for the weekend. And we will bring you up to date on what's happening here in Washington, around the country, and around the globe. And most importantly, give you a chance to, you've got as strong opinions as I do about these issues. I'd love to give you a chance to sound off about them, and you know how to do it. Give us a call at 866-55-PRESS. Send us your comments on Twitter and on BP Show at Bill Press. On Facebook, rather, at Bill Press. Facebook.com.
/ Bill Press Show.
Help me out here. Facebook.com
/ Bill Press Show.
There you go. Man, how many times have I said that and still get it wrong? At any rate, we are almost all together this morning, except for Peter Ogburn, who is down for the count this morning. Almost made it in, and then really was feeling lousy. So we wish him the best. Lisa Murphy, that means, has got 2 or 3 jobs, 2 or 3 hats to wear today.
Hey, good morning. Good to be here.
Alicia Cruz here, as always, on the phones, ready to take your calls at 866-55-PRESS. And Mr. Gummy Bear Man, Cyprian Bolding, is here with the video cams and the lights already on early this morning, booming out to you on Free Speech TV and TawkrTV. Well, everybody rushes out after the State of the Union. I've attended 2 State of the Union addresses in the balcony, and one down in the statuary hall outside the House of Representatives, where all the members of the House and the Senate rush out after the speech to give their comments on the speech, so they can be on radio, be on television, or get in the print editions for the next morning. Actually, what I found amusing when I was there is they don't wait till the speech is over. They actually start coming out in the middle of the speech just to get ahead of the crowd, some of them. And,
being so thus inspired, I guess.
Right. And Ted Cruz, he he was so eager to be the first one on the block, right, that Ted Cruz learned the hard way why some people who really want to run for president, they think things through and they tape things ahead of time so it doesn't seem so half-ass Well, Ted Cruz comes out, starts talking, gets mixed up, and wants to start all over again. So here's Ted Cruz's magic moment, his 15 minutes of fame about the State of the Union.
The president tried to say his policies are lifting the middle class, and yet today, median incomes have stagnated for over a decade. Let me start over. Tonight, America saw a powerful demonstration that it is time to move on beyond President Barack Obama.
Oh, yes. Uh-huh.
Yes.
Yeah, then he gets more serious with his voice and everything.
Change my tone. This will change everything.
Yeah, oopsie. This is an oopsie moment that the Ted Cruz people, they immediately, that video was going out live, right, on YouTube. They immediately tried to kill it. But it was too late. It's already out there. And so what you said, the thing that's all going viral today is Ted Cruz with his oopsie moment. It's sort of a Rick Perry moment. What is it about these Texas politicians?
The redos.
Yeah, they so the redo didn't get any attention at all. It's the oopsie moment that did. Lots going on today here. Congressman John Sarbanes from Maryland will be joining us. Neil King here from the Wall Street Journal. And we'll be talking a little bit later this hour with George Zornick from The Nation magazine. And Joe Biden stirred it up yesterday. Want to find out what you think about that. But first,
This is the Full Court Press.
Well, unlike Peter, I can't do the full court press, but one of my favorite stories of the day, I'll just pick one, is where was President Obama yesterday? Idaho. And Boise, Idaho. Today's in Lawrence, Kansas. We all wondered, why would he go to such a red state? Okay, it's a college town, Boise, so he's going to have a friendly crowd for the most part. But why Idaho? Why a red state to carry his message of the State of the Union? Well, we found out from our good friend Mark Knoller of CBS Radio down at the White House, one possible reason, although the White House has not admitted it, and that one possible reason is because he had not yet been to Idaho as president. He keeps a list, they do, of all the states that he's been to. His goal, of course, is to get to every one of the 50 states. He's been to Alaska, by the way, because he refuels there on the way to Asia.
By default?
Usually. Yeah, right. But so Idaho was number 47. Now there are only 3 left that the president has not visited as president of the United States. And those 3 states, watch, he's going to be going there, you know. South Carolina, which it's hard to believe because that's such an important state and not that far away. South Carolina, South Dakota, been to North Dakota, has been all around there, Nebraska, whatever, not to South Dakota. And he hasn't been to Utah left. So he's saving the red states to last. But, yeah, you bet. He'll
By design, maybe?
Maybe, I don't know. He'll get to all 50. But anyhow, so he chalked off another one yesterday with Idaho. South Carolina, South Dakota, and Utah. Here he comes, ready or not. Yeah, indeed. I love it. I love it. I love it. Vice President Joe Biden really stirring it up yesterday. I don't know whether you heard about this, but so he went out early yesterday morning, and not on the cable shows, but he went on the big brothers, right? He went on the network morning shows, CBS and NBC and ABC, but it was on ABC on Good Morning America that he made a little bit of news. Of course, he was there talking about the themes and the proposals in the State of the Union. And then George Stephanopoulos said to, Mr. Vice President, for 2016, I mean, Hillary Clinton is already out there, and she's already hiring staff. And it looks like there's no doubt that the former Secretary of State is going to be running in 2016. Well, what about you, Mr. Vice President? Are you thinking about it? Joe Biden did not hesitate.
Yes, there's a chance.
Yes.
But I haven't made my mind up about that. We got a lot of work to do between now and then. There's plenty of time. Look, the person who is going to and Secretary Clinton is a really competent, capable person and a friend. The person who is going to be the next president of the United States is the one who's going to be able to articulate the clearest vision to the American people of where they're going to take the country.
Nothing wrong with that. And then he goes on. George asks him, so, well, here we are. It's already January 2015. We're talking 2016. When are you going to make a decision?
Well, I don't think you have to make up your mind until the summer. I think I think this is wide open on both sides. But look, right now my focus is getting implemented what the president talked about last night to nail down this recovery and get the middle class back in the game.
That's the agenda. Yeah, getting the middle class back in the game. Middle class economics, the president called it. But I'll tell you, what he said about 2016 overshadowed anything that he said about the State of the Union. And that became the news of the day. And there were a lot of Democrats out there who said, how dare he? This is terrible. What's Joe Biden doing? How could he do this to Hillary? Doesn't he realize this is Hillary's turn? It's outrageous. These are what some Democrats are saying about. It's outrageous that he should be, horning in on her turf and even talking about running. He's just got to get out of the way. What do you think? 866-55-PRESS. Let's talk about it. We've talked a lot about all the flood of candidates on the Republican side. What about Joe Biden on the Democratic side? In addition to, or instead of, because we're not sure she's going to run, Hillary Clinton. What do you think? 866-55-PRESS, 866-55-77-377. Now, I got to tell you, as far as I'm concerned, should Joe Biden step aside? Hell no. Absolutely hell no. He is, look at it. He is easily as qualified, if not more qualified, than Hillary Clinton. Okay, he's not a woman. I would love to see our first female president. But I also love Joe Biden. He's got a spectacularly successful record in the Senate. Usually with a lot of people, the longer they're in the Senate, the more baggage they've got, right? Joe Biden was just the opposite. The longer he was there, the more kudos that he gets and the more credit that he gets for the good that he did. He was head of the Senate Judiciary Committee. He's the one who shot down Robert Bork. He was head of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, known as one of the, still today, as one of the best statesmen of our time. He was one who got things done in the Senate. President Obama leans on him today for major diplomatic missions around the world and for getting things done in this Congress where Barack Obama can't do it. Joe Biden can make a deal. Joe Biden can bring things together. So he's got a great record in the United States Senate. And I think he's been one of the most effective vice presidents that we've seen in our lifetime. Certainly for the last 6 years has proven how valuable he is on many key issues, starting with the stimulus package, which President Obama handed to him and said, hey, Joe, you make sure you get this thing done. How about the age? Yeah, he's 5 years older than Hillary, okay? He is 72 today. He would be 74 in 2016. Hillary Clinton is 67 today. She would be 69 if elected and become president at the age of 69, which, by the way, was the same age that Ronald Reagan was when he took over as president. But, 5 years difference between the two of them. Joe Biden's in good health. She's in good health so far as we know. Both of them are in good health. So I don't think the age makes any difference at all. I just think in terms of qualification, they are both outstanding Democrats. Both of them would make a great president of the United States. Now, should Joe Biden do it? Tell me, 866-55-PRESS. Will he run? I don't know. Maybe today I'd have to guess no. Does he have a right to run, right? Is it okay for him to run? Abso-freaking-lutely. Yeah, he's certainly qualified to be. He's run twice before. He's certainly qualified to be president. He's got every right to run. Should he run? I also say absolutely go Joe. You've heard me say this before, talking about Elizabeth Warren. You've heard me say it talking about Bernie Sanders. The worst thing for the Democratic Party would be for Hillary Clinton to have a free ride. For Democrats to say, no, we want Hillary, we want her so bad, we don't want anybody to run against her in the primary because we know if she doesn't have any challenge in the primary, she'll jump out of the box after Labor Day and be a phenomenal candidate. No, she won't. Everybody needs a primary. God, we learned that the last time, didn't we? To primary, to shape them up, to shape the issues, and to shape up the candidates as well. So I love what Joe Biden said yesterday. I hope he's seriously thinking about it. I hope he goes. 866, you tell me what you think, 866-55-PRESS. Thursday, January 22nd, The Bill Press Show. Go, Joe, go!
This is The Bill Press Show.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
Grunt work. Love it, hate it, useful, not useful.
Necessary.
Our social entrepreneurs are people who have been on the front lines of social change. I've learned so much from talking with them. This is Cafe Impact, and I'm Jonathan Lewis.
I will say that I think is a challenge for anyone, especially the new workforce as they come in, is the ability to accept grunt work with grace.
The most boring, awful details are the most important elements of doing this work. From the way you save names in your Rolodex to the way you bank and you deposit checks. The truth is, this work isn't glamorous, it's rewarding. You don't go into this for the glamour, you go into it for the impact. And so it takes that determination to do the scut work to actually get anywhere.
It can be really challenging in a first job for someone who's coming out of finishing school to have the enthusiasm that they do to make the type of social impact that they've dreamed of. And now they're here in this first job and all of a sudden they're shouldered with all this grunt work. And they don't understand and they don't get it and they're resentful.
Talk more about the power of answering phones.
Sure, I did that myself, took out the trash, cleaned offices when I had to, and it's all good. There's power in being a good team player and in being somebody who sometimes has to support other people's leadership before you get to have your own moment in the sun.
Is it hard to wait?
It is absolutely hard to wait, especially if you're an alpha female like I am.
I think grunt work can help a new employee build trust internally and teach them the nuances of how an organization is run so that they can have a real good sense of what HR is doing, what finance is doing, what all the other departments are, and that actually makes them a better employee in the long run.
So in my role on a daily basis, I literally can be looking at a new venture in software. We could be looking at a microfinance deal. I could be making coffee, taking out the trash, and riding a tractor on any given day.
Have you found people who thought it was demeaning that they were given this job, work in the front office and make the coffee when they graduated with all A's from this great university?
Yeah, people like that just don't last very long in our world. If your approach to life is that, you're so smart and you're such a fabulous entrepreneur that you can't understand why people aren't giving you opportunities, it's really hard to advance.
Tune in to Gay USA with hosts Ann Northrup and Andy Hum for in-depth coverage of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender news. Watch Gay USA every week, only on Free Speech TV.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
This is the Bill Press Show.
25 minutes after the hour, the numbers are in. 32 million people watched the State of the Union on television Tuesday night, which is the lowest number ever, actually. Maybe not ever, but certainly in modern times. There have only been televised State of the Unions in modern times, so I guess that means forever. Bill Clinton still holds the record with about 70 million in his first State of the Union. But it's not a slap at Barack Obama. The numbers have been going down every year ever since. Again, what we're talking about right now is Vice President Joe Biden out there the morning after, yesterday morning, to carry forward the message of the State of the Union when suddenly he got sidetracked with a question about 2016 and said, yeah, damn right, I'm thinking about it. I'm not in a hurry, but I'm thinking about it, which has some Hillary supporters all upset. What do you think? 866-55-PRESS. You had some comments on
yeah, we have
Twitter?
a couple. You can call us, of course, and you can also talk to us on Twitter at BP Show. NC Nomad weighed in saying, absolutely, Joe should run. What is wrong with Democrats for trying to stifle anyone? We also have Margaret Colvin, who said, love Joe and talking middle-class economics is the way to go. He is a doer, and that is so true.
No, absolutely, and he's good on the middle-class issues. He's has long been good on those issues. Jerry is down in Garner, North Carolina. Hey, Jerry.
Good morning,
Good
Bill.
morning. What do you think?
Joe's the man. I've been following him for years and listening to his stories, and he's a man of the people. Because my wife and I were talking about him the other night, and we decided it's the dynamic trio, Joe and Bernie and Elizabeth.
I got to tell you, you couldn't do any better. But you're right. Biden is, pardon me, really a man of the people. That's the right phrase to use. I think, Jerry, he always talks about growing up in Scranton, about his dad, his mom, and he had a hard scrabble kind of youth, and he look where he is today. Great success story. Is this Aliva? Is that right? In Canton, Texas. Hey, thanks for joining us. What do you think?
Well, I would say go for it, Joe, because I like Joe Biden, and I'd hate to think that we're putting everything on Hillary. And I feel that Joe can continue the, he's well informed, and he's very good at what he does, and I like the way he answers questions. He doesn't straddle the fence. He goes for it.
I know. I love that too.
Yeah.
But Aliva, you're absolutely right. I mean, talk about the best informed person there, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, he knows. He's been involved in every single decision for the last 6 years. He's led many of the initiatives of this administration. Again, many of the successes of the administration are because of the work that he was able to do with his former colleagues in the Senate. Let's keep it going. More calls. Joe Biden. Should he run? 866-55-PRESS.
This is the Bill Press Show.
This is my computer.
This is your computer. Let's go on the internet.
Let's go. Click it.
Yes.
Okay.
I cursor in between the R and the E. Pressing done. I want you to just push the period.
She's gonna love me all over again.
That's it. Jamaica, here you go.
Here we go.
Good job.
Thank you. And I did it by myself. Feel smarter.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Hey, thanks for stopping by. You know, I followed your character since the first episode. I'm a big fan. Big fan.
Thank you.
And listen, your storyline, it makes for incredible TV drama. Thing is, your drug use is very adult content. Too adult for the kids. So I'm gonna have to block you.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Well, have a good one.
You're a nice lady.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
Tune in to Gay USA with hosts Ann Northrup and Andy Hum for in-depth coverage of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender news. Watch Gay USA every week, only on Free Speech TV.
Hey, what do you say? 34 minutes after the hour now. Thursday, January 22nd, George Zornick from The Nation magazine joins us to talk about the trade policy provisions in the President's State of the Union in the next segment. But right now, we are joining the conversation about Joe Biden shaking things up yesterday, maybe unintentionally, when on Good Morning America, George Stephanopoulos asked him whether or not he, like Hillary Clinton, might be thinking about running in 2016, and the vice president didn't hesitate to say, yeah, I'm thinking about it, haven't made up my mind, got time to make a decision, but basically, why not? Why not indeed? As I said, he is as qualified, if not more qualified, than Hillary Clinton. He's run twice. He's got such great experience in the Senate and in the vice presidency. He'd make a great president of the United States. No reason for him not to run. This is not a coronation. This is a primary contest. Love your reaction. 866-55-PRESS. I'm a big Joe fan. It doesn't hurt the fact that he's from Delaware, of course. And I was born and grew up in Delaware before I made California my home. So, that little soft spot there. Although he did go to the wrong high school. Yeah, I don't know why. I don't know why he chose Archmere over Salesianum, but but everybody makes one mistake in their life. Before we get to your calls, a couple of Twitter comments.
Yeah, we have some people on Twitter chiming in at BP Show. PhillyFan99 agrees with you, says Joe may not win, but he'd make a much more watchable candidate than Hillary Clinton and does not want a coronation. And then we also have Wishful Kit saying she was for Joe Biden before she was for Obama, and she will stay that way.
Huh, how about it? All right. It sounds like Joe's got a lot of fans out there. I saw one poll that showed Hillary Clinton up 50% or something over Joe Biden, which is a meaningless poll at this time. But she certainly would be the favorite if she runs. But I think Joe, if people knew that Biden were serious about wanting to carry on the legacy of Barack Obama himself, I think his poll numbers would shoot up pretty fast. Paul out in Lucerne, California. Hello, Paul. Hey, good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah.
I think it's awesome if Joe Biden got the nomination, and I really look forward to the debates because he wouldn't let him be so disingenuous. He'd call him out.
You know what? He really would. I mean, he's a great debater, by the way. Yeah, he really is. But you know what, Paul? I look forward to the Democratic debates, right, with Hillary and Joe and maybe Elizabeth and maybe Bernie on the stage. That would be awesome, right?
Yes, it would.
Yeah, you got 4 rock stars as far as I'm concerned there, and 4 people really know the issues. Thank you, Paul. Another Joe Biden fan. Rose is in Ligonier, Indiana. Hi, Rose.
Hi, morning, everybody.
What's up? Hey, Happy New Year. I haven't talked to you since. I don't think.
Yeah, kind of some issues. But my thing is basically on what you said. We just can't coronate somebody. We need to keep their skills up with the debates. And the more you bring the issues out and discuss them, the more ideas and the more you get people actually paying attention as to just if you just had a melodrama of just, okay, let's coronate her, and we really don't need that. We need to have a thorough discussion, and in the public attention would really make more of the ideas more
Amen.
well-known.
Amen. I was just thinking while you were talking, Rose, can you imagine anything worse for the Democrats and for the whole primary season to have no debates? Because they're not going to have debates if it's just Hillary, right?
There wouldn't be, and you wouldn't have the discussion for all the different things that need to be brought out, and the more ideas to kick around, the better the outcome.
Right, and there would be a lot of issues that would never be talked about, right?
Correct.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Great argument. Thanks, Rose. Good to hear from you again. Out in Santa Fe, New Mexico. Hey, Charles, how are you?
Hi, fine. How are you?
Good, thank you.
I love the idea of Joe running. He does everything he's given, and he has a lot of experience. I'm 72 myself.
There you go, right? You're a young man. You're ready to go. But Joe Biden is a young 72. You've got to say
he is. Have you seen his eyes? They're so bright, and they're sharp. He's sharp.
I got to tell you, I was with him not so long ago, a little fundraiser here in Washington for the nuns on the bus. I talked about it on the air. And he was in such great form that night. People just loved being there. It was maybe about 50 people in the crowd. He shook everybody's hand and gave a great talk again about his faith and his support for the nuns on the bus and the middle class issues that's who he is. That's who he is. And everybody says, Fox News is they love to make fun of Joe Biden. But Joe just tells it like it is. He doesn't try to be the air dried, whatever that phrase is. Smooth politician who never stumbles. He just is who he is. That's what I really.
Interestingly enough, he doesn't try, but then when he does speak extemporaneously, he comes off with the best bites you've ever heard.
Yeah, no, absolutely, he would, and he would certainly keep it more colorful. Hey, that is great. Just one other thing I wanted to touch on. We'll be talking more about it later if we have a chance. But Some disturbing news out of Ferguson, Missouri. We've been waiting. We know the grand jury out there decided they were not going to file charges against Officer Darren Wilson. As Attorney General Eric Holder launched a Department of Justice investigation to determine whether or not Officer Darren Wilson violated the civil rights of young Michael Brown, and reportedly, the Justice Department hasn't confirmed this yet, but as CBS News was reporting last night that the Justice Department has completed its investigation, and they also have decided to file no charges. They found not insufficient evidence, at any rate. They say, according to CBS, that Darren Wilson was guilty of violating federal civil rights law, and therefore no charges would be filed against him in that category, which just doubles down the outrage and the injustice that we've seen in Ferguson. Remember, there's a similar investigation underway on George Zimmerman with the killing of Trayvon Martin down in Florida, and a similar investigation underway in Staten Island with the death of Eric Gardner. The Justice Department is still looking into the Ferguson Police Department and whether the police department itself is guilty of racial profiling over the last few years, given their makeup and given their practices. That investigation continues, but again, according to CBS News, that no federal charges will be filed against Darren Wilson. A big disappointment, I believe, and is going to spark even more legitimate protests against the police practices that we've seen in Ferguson and elsewhere, and keep alive that issue of how to resolve and how to bridge this gap between local police departments and the communities that they are there to serve. More calls coming up at 866-55-PRESS. George Zornick in The Nation reporting that Democrats are ecstatic over President Obama's State of the Union address, with one exception. He'll tell us all about it next.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
I'm the retired bishop with the Episcopal Church as the bishop for all chaplains in federal service. I read that there was a group of people that represented a sense of injustice that I had. We'd lost Zuccotti. I mean, there was a kind of a hope that maybe Trinity Church would be gracious and give refuge. We picked this day where we would gather and demonstrate that Trinity was closing its ears to what was happening. We marched around the block, and I realized that, my goodness, they're carrying a ladder. And I thought, well, this is the moment. You could feel a spiritual presence. You could feel a certain something. And then the cops came in. It got brutal.
I'm with you right here. Robin, I'm here.
The church needed, in this moment in history, to stand alongside of these protesters. The truth of Christ is found in the pews, is found in the institutional church, but it is also found in the streets. It's found in the honesty and the integrity, the insistence of people that you find in Occupy Wall Street.
Tune in to Gay USA with hosts Ann Northrup and Andy Hum for in-depth coverage of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender news. Watch Gay USA every week, only on Free Speech TV.
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
President Obama, are you fracking kidding me?
Reopen the EPA studies.
In Texas, Wyoming, and Pennsylvania.
Fracking pollutes our oceans.
Fracking poisons our water.
Fracking makes climate change worse.
Fracking relies on toxic chemicals that cause cancer.
Ban fracking now.
Ban fracking now.
Go on. Ban it.
Ban fracking now.
Please.
The most valuable morning radio show, according to The Nation magazine. This is The Bill Press Show.
And if the nation says it, you know it must be right. 13 minutes before the top of the hour. As a long-time subscriber of the nation, I call it the liberals' Bible, the progressive Bible. I believe everything I read in the nation, especially anything written by George Zornick. You can trust him. You can count on him. He joins us on our news line this morning. Hey, George, Happy New Year.
Bill, good morning. Thanks for the kind words.
How you doing? Everything
Not
good?
bad. How about you? How's 2015? Yeah, everything's good.
Off to a good start. I saw this morning that the according to CNN's instant poll for people watching the State of the Union address, 81% liked the speech. 81% thought President Obama did a good job on the State of the Union. Those are pretty high marks, huh?
Yeah, it's pretty remarkable. It's so funny if you, as you know, living here in D.C., you can really be seduced by the Beltway narrative. And it's easy to start to believe, certainly after the midterms, that Obama's numbers are in the tank and he's about as popular as bad dog food and all this stuff, and there's some he's had ups and downs, no doubt about it, but I don't think I don't think people have nearly as low an opinion of him as some people in the Beltway would like to believe.
Now, the reaction to the State of the Union was interesting. Republicans basically didn't agree with anything he said. Democrats were ecstatic with the exception of one part of the speech. Tell us about it. You've written about this in The Nation. Yeah.
Yeah, talking to a lot of progressive members after the speech, they loved this new turn to inequality. A lot of the proposals like paid sick leave and the big bank tax and things like that. But yeah, you're absolutely right. When Obama asked for not just the Trans-Pacific Partnership trade deal, but the authority to fast-track it through Congress, that really didn't sit well with a lot of Democrats. I saw maybe about 5 or 10 of them stand up when he said that. It was the only line of the night where the Republicans stood up and the Democrats didn't. There were a couple times the Republicans stood up when everyone did, when it was about veterans or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But that was a line of the night. So, yeah, Democrats are worried about this. They don't, first of all, like giving Obama the authority to fast-track anything through without the ability to amend it and talk about it. And they're very concerned, based on all the past trade deals they've seen, about the potential job losses and the regulatory changes that could come from this.
It seems to me it's a bigger issue than just a trade deal, right? It really comes down to almost a constitutional division of authority between the executive branch and the legislative branch that I would think all members of Congress would be hesitant about, because what the president wants is the authority, as you just alluded to make a trade deal on his own. And that trade deal would then go to Congress, which would have no ability to debate it or amend it. They would just have to vote up or down. So basically, they're conceding their authority, right?
Yeah, unfortunately, it's authority that's already been essentially stripped from them up to this point. It's pretty crazy. Members of Congress have literally not seen this deal. Like, they are not allowed to see this deal.
That's right.
Some with security clearances can go, and they can see the text and not take notes and not take a staffer. But most of them don't even have access to it. And the really terrible thing about that is that there are about between 550 and 600 corporate lobbyists who have seen it, mm-hmm. and who are working with the administration closely on crafting some of the details. So up to this point, their authority has already been blunted. And so then when Obama comes to them and says, I want you to give this an up or down vote and you can't amend it, a lot of them just kind of throw their hands up and say, no way.
Yeah. The idea that, and I didn't realize this till I was doing a little research recently myself. You're absolutely right. So you have inside White House people, inside administration people, trade authority people who are involved in these negotiations, and then lobbyists representing about 500 corporations. They've all seen the drafts. They've been involved. They've been around the table. They've been talking about it. No members of Congress involved at all, right? And then they're just treated like a rubber stamp at the end. I mean, if I were a Republican, I would be against this deal. I'm not only against it as a Democrat, just because of it's sort of like the war-making authority, right? The more power they give up, the less power they're going to have.
Yeah, and I should amend my remarks. A lot of Republicans stood up, but certainly not all of them did. And there is a chunk of Republicans who really don't. I mean, anything giving Obama any power to do anything is just sort of against their constitutional makeup, and they just don't like that. And if this does die, it will be because Republicans just join with Republicans join with Democrats and say that there's no way.
Yeah. Now, to turn it around, with the exception of that TPP or the Fast Track Authority, which is really, as you point out, the issue, with the exception of that, for the progressives that I talked to, and we had Mark Pocan in studio with us yesterday, for example. They were happy as pigs and you know what, right? Because the president, I mean, it was a very progressive agenda that he laid in front of Congress.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And this is really an important time. I mean, this is when, I think that speech was not just about Obama's legacy and what he'd like to try to see done these past 2 years, even though I think he knows much of it won't happen, but it's about sort of setting the tone for this presidential election. And I know it's tiresome to talk about 2016 when it's early 2015, but this is when the race is in some ways really happening. It's when the parties are positioning themselves for how they're going to run. A year from now, when it's the middle of the caucuses, I mean, they're locked in. They have the agenda. That's what they're running on, and that's it. This is sort of where the real interesting stuff happens, and the parties position themselves. So for Obama to kind of throw the gauntlet down, I mean, at this point, every Democratic candidate who runs for president, whether it's Hillary or anyone else, is going to have to answer for the fact that, hey, President Obama wants paid sick leave. President Obama wants a big bank tax, so why don't you?
Right.
So it was a really important speech.
Oh, no, it's certainly whatever happens in Congress, it lays the platform, lays the foundation for 2016, no doubt about it. Hey, George, good to talk to you today. Thank you for joining us this morning, and we'll see you back here in studio one of these days. Thanks, George.
Yeah, anytime, Bill. Talk soon.
All right, George Zornick with The Nation, thenation.com.
This is the Bill Press Show.
What gets you into college? Good SAT scores? High GPA? Lots of extracurriculars?
Sure, but what you really need is money.
If you don't have the cash, you'll need a loan.
And we mean huge student loans because the cost of college has risen 1,000% in the last 30 years.
This means big money for the banks that collect fees and interest.
Now, millions of young people are starting their adult lives with an average of $29,000 of loans on their backs.
Altogether, we're talking $1.2 trillion in student debt.
And more people are finding it impossible to pay them back. Welcome to the student debt crisis.
The increasing demand for higher education and cuts to state funding gave colleges a huge incentive to keep inflating prices.
I graduated about a year ago, currently in $35,000 of debt.
I am in debt about like $25,000.
I owe $23,000.
I owe over $50,000 in student loans.
38.8 million Americans owe money on a student loan. And the biggest names in banking are making huge profits off the booming student loan industry. Sallie Mae, the largest provider of private student loans, made $949 million last year.
They only give you about 6 months to look for a job. You have to start paying back the loan. It's very pressuring, especially nowadays. It's very hard to find a job.
Over half of the students graduating in 2012 could not find a decent paying job.
They either had low-wage jobs or unpaid internships or were unemployed altogether.
So you can't make the payments. You start incurring late fees, which makes the loan even harder to pay off.
And it stays with you for years, even decades.
Right now, a third of the people who started repaying their loans are delinquent or in default.
That's 13.7 million people, more than the populations of Chicago, New York, and San Francisco combined.
Worse, it's not just the borrowers who are in trouble. Many loans require co-signers.
So if the student is unable to pay, that co-signer, a father, a mother, or a grandparent, is now on the hook.
Even a grandparent's Social Security benefits can be garnished to pay the loan.
We should have an answer to this. If you get really behind in your car payment or your credit cards, you can file for bankruptcy.
But Congress has made it nearly impossible to discharge student loans through bankruptcy.
Big institutions make big profits while students try to make ends meet under crushing debt.
Is this how we want our education system to work?
The whole point of going to college is to get the career you want, but lately that's been discouraged because no one can afford school. You get a job just to pay off your student loans.
We need higher education, not higher debt.
Sign up to end the student debt crisis at higherednotdebt.org.
Seen on Free Speech TV and online on TawkrTV. This is the Bill Press Show.
Here we go at 3 minutes now before the top of the hour. In the next hour, we're going to be talking with Congressman John Sarbanes from nearby state of Maryland. And then Travis Waldron from Think Progress Sports will join us as well, talking about Deflategate and other issues. The numbers are in for the viewership, TV viewership of the State of the Union. By the way, it was Harry Truman who gave the very first televised State of the Union address. For this year, the president's 1 hour, 15-minute speech, according to the LA Times, drew an average of 31.7 million viewers, both on the broadcast networks and cable networks combined, 31.7 million viewers. That is a 15-year low, down from last year's State of the Union to 33.3 million viewers. And a lot of people say, well, that's because people get their news in many different ways today. And the president was out there ahead of the State of the Union telling people what he was going to be talking about, so there were maybe not as many surprises to stay tuned for. The conversation continues on many fronts with your calls at 866-55-PRESS. We'll be right back.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Hey, friends and neighbors. Thursday, January 22nd. How about it? Welcome to the Bill Press Show this good Thursday, where you happen to be in this great land of ours. We welcome you on Free Speech TV and where you happen to be on the planet. We welcome you on TawkrTV, youtube.com/TawkrTV, TAWKR, youtube.com/TawkrTAWKR TV. Tell your friends, tell your neighbors. This is the place to be to find out what's going on every day, early in the morning, and to join the conversation. And you know how to do it. Give us a call at 866-55-PRESS. Send us your comments on Twitter at BP Show and on Facebook at facebook.com/Bill Press Show. They cheated. Yep, that's what the official report says. 11 out of 12 of the balls the Patriots were using in their rout of the Indianapolis Colts turned out to have been deflated, making them easier to throw and easier to catch. We'll find out what the NFL is going to do, what kind of penalty they will lay down on the Patriots. But it throws a cloud over the entire Super Bowl. Even were the Patriots to win against the Seahawks, everybody's going to say they only got there by cheating. Meanwhile, President Obama has taken his State of the Union message on the road to Boise, Idaho yesterday, to Lawrence, Kansas today. And reaction continues from Capitol Hill. Democrats, for the most part, lining up in support of everything the president had in his State of the Union address, with the exception of his request for speeded up trade authority, executive authority to make whatever trade deals he wants. That's about the only part of the speech that Republicans say they like. They certainly are not going to join the president in raising the minimum wage because they think poor people don't vote for Republicans. Why should they help poor people? Yep, lots to talk about. Join the conversation at any time. 866-55-PRESS. good to have you with us. Happy Thursday.
This is the Bill Press Show.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. You know, but it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, you know, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
Just this month, my bill was like $138.
Even at one phone call a week cost me $40 to $50 every month.
I am living on a fixed income of SSI, so this is really a great hardship. Families are being punished. When they incarcerate your children, they incarcerate the whole family.
In 2011, the Media Action Grassroots Network, Working Narratives, and Prison Legal News founded the Campaign for Prison Phone Justice, an effort to call on the FCC to address the cost of interstate phone calls. The campaign mobilized prisoners to send hundreds of letters. Advocates and families filled out postcards, met with elected officials, and signed petitions. Partnerships were formed across the political spectrum and with groups in the criminal justice, civil rights, and public interest community. The film distribution company Participant Media and director Ava DuVernay joined the fight through a social action campaign tied to the release of the feature film Middle of Nowhere. In an effort to push the FCC to act, the campaign hosted a historic rally outside of the Federal Communications Commission where for the first time, families of prisoners, elected officials, civil rights and faith leaders came together to call for an end to predatory phone rates.
We're all held captive when predatory phone companies gouge our families.
My son has been incarcerated now for over 10 years, and my husband estimates that in the time we spent over $25,000 on prison phone calls.
My hero's not yours, you probably arrested them. Your schools probably neglected them. They spawn thoughts, you probably infected them. Feed us what you feed us, you can lay us next to them. FBI call it major crimes. Babies making babies cry.
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
They cheated! Oh, yep. The NFL has found out that the Patriots, 11 out of 12 of the footballs they were using, and last Sunday's big game against the Indianapolis Colts, 11 out of 12 of the footballs were deflated, making them easier to catch and easier to throw. Should they be allowed to play in the Super Bowl? Hey, hello, everybody. What do you say? That big question overshadows us all. In a certain sense, almost overshadows what President Obama was talking about in the State of the Union address. It is Thursday, January 22nd. So good to see you today. Thank you for joining us. This is the Bill Press Show. We are here in our nation's capital, and our studio on Capitol Hill, just down the street from the United States Capitol building, bringing you the news of the day. Yes, here from Washington, but also around the country and around the globe. Lots going on to talk about today, and we look forward to hearing from you as to what all these issues mean to you. 866-55-PRESS is the toll-free number. A good conversation in the last hour about Joe Biden's comments yesterday that he's at least thinking about running in 2016. This hour we're going to focus on campaign finance reform and on the big flap over Deflategate. Again, join us by phone at 866-55-PRESS or send us your comments on Twitter at BP Show and on Facebook at facebook.com/Bill Press Show. We are one down today. Peter Ogburn under the weather. Hopefully we'll be back tomorrow. We wish Peter well. Lisa Murphy here running the show today.
Hey, good morning.
And Alicia Cruz on the job. Again, to take your calls at 866-55-PRESS. Cyprian Bolding on the job. That's why you can see us on Free Speech TV and TawkrTV, because our videographer is he's on it. And by the way, he is back. Yes, he is back. Al Gore, haven't heard from him in a while. I was talking to a friend the other day, lives in the same building with Al Gore in San Francisco, and he said even he hasn't seen Al around the building, hasn't seen him in the lobby. Don't know what's going on. Well, we found out yesterday he's been busy putting together another round of the big Live Earth concerts. The first one kicks off. He gets all the major bands and performers together to raise money for climate change. And he announced yesterday they're going to come back starting June 18 is the first one this year. Here's the former vice president.
The purpose is to have 1 billion voices with one message to demand climate action now.
1 billion voices, Al Gore, Mr. Climate Change, indeed. I'm sure he's pleased to see that some people are now starting to take him more seriously on that issue. Congressman John Sarbanes starts us off at the top of this hour. We joined then by Travis Waldron from Think Progress Sports. In the next hour, reporters here from the Wall Street Journal and from Politico. But first,
this is the Full Court Press.
Peter does a full court press. I just give you one story when he's not here, and this is the one that caught my attention this morning. We now know who is the richest elected official in the entire country.
It's not Darrell Issa?
No, not Darrell Issa. And we're talking, so in Congress, in the Senate, in state legislatures, in local government, in the governor's office, the richest single person elected official today in the entire country is the governor of Tennessee.
Wow.
Governor of Tennessee, Bill Haslam. He is worth, according to Forbes magazine, an estimated $2 billion. Forbes reported that yesterday. His family, his father founded the Pilot Flying J truck stops in 1958, and with lower gas prices, they're making more money at these truck stops when these great big trucks fill up, and so his net worth more than doubled from $900 million since last August, from $980 million rather, up to $2 billion.
Wow, that's quite a jump.
He's worth. Governor of Texas. All right. Speaking about money in politics, nobody is more on top of it and talking about the harm that Citizens United has done to our political system. Then the good Congressman John Sarbanes from Maryland, representing Maryland's 3rd Congressional District, who joins us on our news line this morning. Congressman, always good to talk to you.
Bill, it's great to be here. Good morning.
Thank you. Happy New Year. I'm sorry you're not the top of this list here. I don't know. I have to check the list and see how far down the list you are, Congressman.
I'm pretty far down, unfortunately.
Man, $2 billion. Whoa. So, first of all, your overall reaction to the State of the Union. You were in the chambers Tuesday night. What'd you think?
Well, I thought the president gave a forceful speech. I think he's right to focus on middle-class economics, as he's calling it, which is what can we do as the economy is beginning to recover to make sure that that recovery is reaching every single American. And he laid out, I think, a good prescription for how we can make that happen. I'm not sure that the Republicans are going to go along with it. In fact, I'm sure that they're not, just based on the initial reaction. But I think the president laid out a pretty good agenda. Of course, I bring the lens, as you know, Bill, that a lot of Americans look at these proposals and don't really believe we can get them done in Washington. Anyhow, because special interests, big money influence kind of runs the show there, and they're going to stop it from happening at the end of the day anyhow.
Well, it was a curious coincidence that that the morning after the President's State of the Union was the 5th anniversary of Citizens United. Mm-hmm. And the President put out a statement yesterday saying, again, that Citizens United had done was wrong, wrongly decided, and has done so much harm to the country. There's certainly a connection between the two, isn't there?
No question about it. 5 years ago, the Supreme Court began to sort of run down a path that's making big money the determinator in American politics and American government. Really took the lid off of spending by the super wealthy and well-connected, and they now have more influence than they've ever had before. The result being that the average American out there really doesn't feel any incentive to show up in the political town square, because they feel like it doesn't matter what they do, their voice isn't heard. If they cast a vote, they cast it for someone who ends up in a place where big money calls the shots anyhow. I think there's a link between that feeling and that cynicism over big money running things and the fact that we had the lowest turnout in this last election since 1942. The rational voter says, why not stay home? If my vote really doesn't make a difference because money calls the shots in Washington, let me stay home and maintain a shred of dignity.
So is this something that Congress can tackle, or ultimately does it depend on a different makeup of the Supreme Court?
I think there's a lot that Congress can do, Bill. I mean, I know there's this movement for a constitutional amendment to try to address the excesses of the Citizens United case, and I support that. I think we ought to have the ability to regulate spending in elections. But in the meantime, or in any event, we ought to create a small donor matching system that empowers everyday citizens to be the ones that actually lift campaigns up on their shoulders. Because if you do that, candidates will want to go find those small donors. They want to find everyday citizens. They'll show up in your living room because you can get 30 of your friends together, make some small donations, earn public matching funds, and raise enough money that it's consequential for that candidate. That's the only way you bring millions of Americans out of the bleachers and into the ring, if they believe that their voice and their participation in a world where money is speech actually makes a difference. And that's what the Government by the People Act, H.R. 20, would do. It would create such a system. We reintroduced it yesterday, I'm glad to say, with 138 original co-sponsors.
No kidding. Wow, that's impressive. I was going to ask you if you'd reintroduce it, because we talked about it in the last session, of course. But, yeah, that's a good start, healthy start. Any Republicans on it?
We do have Republicans. We have Walter Jones of North Carolina. God bless him. Who,
good man.
Really comes to it with the right attitude. He senses among his conservative constituents this feeling of being left out, locked out of their own democracy. What's interesting, Bill, is the polling data and my own experience talking to people is that it doesn't matter whether you're a Republican, Democrat, or independent. There's a deep feeling that special interests are running the show in Washington, and everyday people are being left behind. And if we can sort of marshal that sentiment and channel it into a vehicle like the Government by the People Act, we could get this reform. It's not going to happen tomorrow, but it could happen, and we want to be ready with this broad coalition we've built across the country so that when that moment presents itself, we're ready to take advantage of it.
Congressman John Sarbanes, our guest, representing Maryland's 3rd Congressional District. How can people find out more about this, Congressman? What's the best site to go to online?
Well, there's a couple ways you can do it. You can Google Government by the People Act, and you will arrive at a number of different platforms where you can add your voice to this effort, sign petitions. You can go to www.ofby.us. So that's like of the people by the people, ofby.us, and that's a site that's really devoted to promoting this kind of campaign reform and giving people the voice that they deserve in their democracy.
Now, how would this multiplier effect work?
Here's how it would work, Bill. If you give a small donation, and that's anything up to $150 in a primary or general, that is matched 6-to-1 by public funds where the candidate you're contributing to has agreed to meet certain requirements, and that is reach out and cultivate small donors, agree to limit the amount of high donations they receive, agree to give up traditional PAC funding. So that candidate has to meet certain standards. But if they do, then every small donation they receive will benefit from this 6-to-1 match. And before you know it, they're able to raise real dollars by turning to everyday citizens, to their constituents, by the people out there who ought to be listened to.
So if you're a $100 contributor, right, then you become, through this act, a $700 contributor, if I have my math correct.
That's exactly right. And we help the $100 contributor.
If you give $700, they're going to take you seriously, right?
That's the whole point.
Yeah.
That's the whole point. Right now, the $50 donor or the $100 donor can't get the candidate's attention, because how do you compete with some PAC donation or some deep-pocketed, high donor on K Street who can give $750 or $1,000? You can't. But if you've got the match behind you, boosting up the power of your voice, all of a sudden that candidate wants to come listen to you, and that's the way it ought to be.
And the funds to be able to do this from the public funding would come through a tax checkoff, or what's the trigger?
Combination of things, Bill. You can have a tax checkoff, which we propose, but fundamentally we say let's go to the industries that have the most influence now, that are already contributing to campaigns, right? They're doing it directly. Wall Street's giving hundreds of millions of dollars to congressional campaigns every 2 years. The oil and gas industry is doing the same, and others. Instead of having them give directly to candidates' campaigns, which is a way of buying influence, how about we close a few loopholes and have that money come into the public treasury and turn around and use it to underwrite a public funding system? That's what I propose doing. The nexus is a very natural one, and we think they're the ones that ought to underwrite this system, since they're the ones that have been benefiting from it for so many years.
No doubt about it, Congressman. I think, you're really right on target here with the inability of Congress to get anything done these days, the public, distrust of elected officials and of the government today. It's all related to all of this money awash in politics, and you've been the champion for some time now.
Bill, in 1982, Bob Dole, the Republican Senate Majority Leader or Minority Leader at the time, said if we ever get to where everyone in Washington, or everyone has a PAC up here on Capitol Hill, we'll never get anything done. Here we are 30 years later. The system's completely gummed up by the big money, and the American people are deeply frustrated by this. If we give them a solution and we organize behind it, I think we can change that.
Yeah, absolutely, Congressman. Wish you all the best luck, and thank you for your leadership on this issue in particular. And thanks for your time this morning. We'll talk to you again soon.
Thanks, Bill. Take care.
All right, John Sarbanes, representing Maryland's 3rd congressional district. And again, that website, government, nothing more important, Government by the People, governmentbythepeople.com. We'll be right back.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
Grunt work. Love it, hate it, useful, not useful.
Necessary.
Our social entrepreneurs are people who have been on the front lines of social change. I've learned so much from talking with them. This is Cafe Impact, and I'm Jonathan Lewis.
I will say that I think is a challenge for anyone, especially the new workforce as they come in, is the ability to accept grunt work with grace.
The most boring, awful details are the most important elements of doing this work. From the way you save names in your Rolodex to the way you bank and you deposit checks. The truth is, this work isn't glamorous, it's rewarding. You don't go into this for the glamour, you go into it for the impact. And so it takes that determination to do the scut work to actually get anywhere.
It can be really challenging in a first job for someone who's coming out of finishing school to have the enthusiasm that they do to make the type of social impact that they've dreamed of. And now they're here in this first job and all of a sudden they're shouldered with all this grunt work. And they don't understand and they don't get it and they're resentful.
Talk more about the power of answering phones.
Sure, I did that myself, took out the trash, cleaned offices when I had to, and it's all good. There's power in being a good team player and in being somebody who sometimes has to support other people's leadership before you get to have your own moment in the sun.
Is it hard to wait?
It is absolutely hard to wait, especially if you're an alpha female like I am.
I think grunt work can help a new employee build trust internally and teach them the nuances of how an organization is run so that they can have a real good sense of what HR is doing, what finance is doing, what all the other departments are, and that actually makes them a better employee in the long run.
So in my role on a daily basis, I literally can be looking at a new venture in software. We could be looking at a microfinance deal. I could be making coffee, taking out the trash, and riding a tractor on any given day.
Have you found people who thought it was demeaning that they were given this job, work in the front office and make the coffee when they graduated with all A's from this great university? And,
people like that just don't last very long in our world. If your approach to life is that, you're so smart and you're such a fabulous entrepreneur that you can't understand why people aren't giving you opportunities, it's really hard to advance.
Tune in to Gay USA with hosts Ann Northrup and Andy Hum for in-depth coverage of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender news. Watch Gay USA every week, only on Free Speech TV.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC. or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
Travis Waldron from Think Progress Sports joins us in the next half hour to talk Deflategate and other issues. I don't have a lot of time for this right now, but just want to mention on a big now huge new controversy in Washington, triggered yesterday when John Boehner announced that he invited Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu from Israel to address a joint session of Congress, which has set up a real conflict with the White House because, number one, visits from heads of state are usually handled through the White House and the State Department. And number two, Boehner wants Bibi Netanyahu to come here and lobby Congress against President Obama's policy on new sanctions against Iran. The president talked about this in the State of the Union, saying that it would be a mistake right now to place new sanctions on Iran. Let's see how the negotiations are going now for them to even more do more to deregulate or whatever, decommission their nuclear program. And if those negotiations don't succeed, then we'll slap on new sanctions. Israel wants us to slap on new sanctions now. And so Boehner wants Netanyahu to come here and speak to the Congress against the President of the United States. All I got to say is I hope Netanyahu is smarter than that. I hope he doesn't walk into that political trap. Because if he sticks his nose in American politics against the President of the United States, that's the worst thing he could do for the state of Israel today. Big mistake, Bibi. Don't do it.
This is the Bill Press Show.
So this is my computer.
This is your computer. Let's go on the internet.
Let's go. Click it.
Yes.
Okay.
I cursor in between the R and the E. Pressing dot, I want you to just push the area.
She's gonna love me all over again.
That's it. Jamaica, here you go.
Here we go.
Good job.
Thank you. Thank you. And I did it by myself. Feel smarter.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
Same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Hey, thanks for stopping by. You know, I followed your character since the first episode. I'm a big fan. Big fan.
Thank you.
And listen, your storyline, it makes for incredible TV drama. Thing is, your drug use is very adult content. Too adult for the kids. So I'm gonna have to block you.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Well, have a good one.
You're a nice lady.
The most valuable morning radio show, according to The Nation magazine. This is The Bill Press Show.
Hey, you bet. 33 minutes now after the hour on Thursday, January 22nd, The Bill Press Show. We're live in Washington, D.C., our nation's capital. We're coming to you on your local progressive talk radio station. Also looking at you on Free Speech TV and on TawkrTV, our worldwide video stream. And we're brought to you today by AFSCME, the good men and women of AFSCME. Under President Lee Saunders, the largest public employee and healthcare workers union in the entire country. For more information about their good work making America happen, go to their website at afscme.org, AFSCME.org. Well, you know, a lot of attention to the State of the Union, but probably more talk about Deflategate. And some other big issues leading up to the Super Bowl. We don't talk sports. We don't dare talk sports without Travis Waldron from Think Progress Sports in studio with us. First time for 2015. Hello, Travis. Happy New Year.
You too.
I mean,
I've been here in 2015. You haven't been.
Oh, is that right?
Yes,
well, I have
once.
been,
just
but we
once.
haven't been together.
You weren't here.
Okay.
So
I'm a little nervous today because it's just you and me, and Peter's not here today. He's sick today, so
we'll manage.
Do you think
we'll figure it out?
Think we can carry this? All right. So we now know that 11 out of 12 of the footballs on the Patriots side were deflated. How serious is that? Is that really an advantage?
They say it is. Mm-hmm. I have no idea. I was never any good at football.
Oh, okay.
But no, apparently it's easier to throw the ball when throw and catch the ball, especially in cold weather or rainy weather.
Right.
When it's less inflated.
So if there were 11 out of 12, you'd have to conclude that was not.
Doesn't seem like an accident.
An accident, right?
Right. Yeah. Now the question in terms of what it'll mean is what can the NFL prove of what the Patriots knew, and was it deliberate, and how far up the chain did it go?
Yeah. Let's assume it's deliberate, and again, it was no accident. What can they do? What's the max punishment? Can they take the win back?
Probably not. I don't know. You wouldn't find a lot of precedent for that. I mean, I think exactly, right. And I think it's funny. I have thoroughly enjoyed the last 3 days of news coverage of this because it's just like
moment, Travis.
It's just amazing. It's the most amazing, all of the stuff, all of the scandals and the problems the NFL has had this year. This is the first one that you can actually sit back and be like, this is actually hilarious.
Yeah.
This one is kind of it's relatively, it obviously has consequence for the game, but it's relatively inconsequential compared to,
the domestic abuse stuff,
domestic
right,
violence and
yeah.
nicknames that people think are offensive and all the other things. And just watching like the overheated takes on this have been somewhat hilarious. Of, you know, they have to immediately suspend the coach and Tom Brady for the Super Bowl. And, you know, it's just, I don't really like, for whatever reason, I don't really care about the outcome, probably because I'm not the biggest NFL fan.
Outcome of the
of
Super Bowl.
how this plays out. To me, the whole process of it is almost just as entertaining. I think it does matter.
But
it does matter.
Yes, but
you can't just let people cheat.
I was just going to say yes, but they were cheating, and it's not the first time the Patriots were cheating. Right? We go back to.
But I guess
when
that's just part of what
videotaping. And I mean, I know we had a guy in one day who said to us, Peter and I always laugh about it. If you're not cheating, you're not trying. But the rules are the rules. I mean, you're not supposed to cheat, and it doesn't it? Maybe it's not the biggest issue in the world. I agree, especially for somebody like me who's not a big sports fan. But to me, it puts a little cloud over the whole thing. I mean, if they win the Super Bowl, if they beat the Seahawks, people are going to say they only got there by cheating.
Of course. But I think this is the funny. This is the funny thing about the Patriots, though, is there are so many non-Patriots fans who never got over the Spygate thing.
Yes.
So they got caught cheating in 2007. They got a draft pick taken away. They made the Super Bowl that year, though. They lost, but they made it. Now they get caught, maybe get caught cheating again. They're in the Super Bowl. It's like, I jokingly tweeted this the other day. I'm like, well, my team's terrible. Maybe they just need to cheat. Like, my team's not any good at the NFL draft, and they're not any good at football. I don't know. I don't know how you stop it.
This is speculation, I know, but how high up the chain do you think it goes? Belichick give the order? Or Belichick?
I have no idea. And I think it's going to be, I think that's the key here, is it's going to be really hard for the NFL, without kind of a smoking gun. It's going to be really hard for the NFL to, was it Tom Brady making the call? Was it Bill Belichick? Was it the equipment manager? I mean, I don't know how you find that stuff out. But maybe they will.
So the Pats are going to they're holding Belichick is, I guess it'd be Belichick, right? They're holding a news conference this morning in Boston. What are they going to say?
Bill Belichick doesn't say anything at his news conferences. So if it's him, who knows? The Patriots have kind of taken Tom Brady was on TV laughing, or on the radio laughing about it. Rob Gronkowski has joked about it. They've kind of taken we're not going to deny anything. We're gonna cooperate tack. So it'll be interesting to see what they say. I really have no idea. I don't know what you do say. I
just wonder if they'll come out and say,
I don't think they're going to incriminate themselves.
We did it. We're sorry we did it. We shouldn't have done it. We'll never do it again. And we apologize. Unlikely, right?
I would be really shocked if they admitted anything.
Now, what I have found interesting too is that the players themselves. You mentioned Brady just sort of laughed off, but the players themselves don't really seem to be that upset about it. So here's the losing quarterback, right, for the Colts, Andrew Luck, yesterday.
Yeah, it's sort of the energy, is sort of sucked out of you. You do feel deflated.
Yeah. So even he couldn't resist.
Yeah. I think
right? He doesn't sound outraged.
Well, they got beat by 38 points.
Exactly. Yeah.
And even the officials apparently caught it at halftime, and the Patriots came out and scored 3 touchdowns in the third quarter, all rushing, and ran away from them. Now, that said, just because they got blown out should not be an excuse for letting people cheat. But I think it's a little easier if you're a Colts guy to take it, because it looked like the Patriots could have been.
What was the final score? 45-7. So if the footballs had been properly inflated, it might have been 45-14.
Yeah, maybe less than 45. But it's hard to say that it's hard to say that it affected the outcome. Now, if the Baltimore Ravens are making similar claims, that game was a little bit closer.
Well, right. And
so I guess
Senator Ben Cardin yesterday was saying, well, the big question is, did they cheat against the Ravens?
Right. And at every level it goes back to how far back were they cheating? Right. How many teams are doing this? It's not a secret that the practice of working and breaking in these footballs is common. Now, how many are going past that into what the Patriots may or may not have done?
Right.
Who knows?
All right. Well, you knew this was going to happen. You knew this was coming. So if you're talking about deflated balls, right, you know somebody's going to come up with with the video, the fun video on it. This was put out by a sports reporter up in Boston by the name of Bill Stonium. He's got a website, Bill Stonium.
Benstonium, and it's a parody site.
Benstonium.com. On the whole Deflategate controversy, and we apologize for the bad taste, but what the hell?
You're on your way to the Super Bowl, but does your game still feel a bit flat? Cialis Inflatable helps fill your balls anytime the moment is right. Reach under center with confidence, knowing those balls are full and ready to grab. Before starting Cialis Inflatable, make sure your quarterback actually has balls to inflate. Do not play with deflated balls. Side effects may include inflated ego, swelling or painful sacks, loss of draft picks or hoodie sleeves, and hefty fines. Why let deflated balls hold you back? Give your balls that extra pump for the big game. Ask your equipment manager about Cialis Inflatable and stop f***ing cheating.
I think that's the same music that Obama used the other night.
Oh, no. I'm embarrassed to even play that on the air, but it's funny.
It's great.
And they use
they're asking for it.
They use every possible inflatable term there, indeed. All right. There's other sports news to talk about. The Joe Paterno thing is maybe more outrageous than Deflategate when you think about it. So let's talk about that when we come back here. You want to weigh in on Deflategate or any other sports news of the day? 866-55-PRESS with Travis Waldron from Think Progress Sports.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
I'm the retired bishop with the Episcopal Church as the bishop for all chaplains in federal service. I read that there was a group of people that represented a sense of injustice that I had. We'd lost Zuccotti. I mean, there was a kind of a hope that maybe Trinity Church would be gracious and give refuge. We picked this day where we would gather and demonstrate that Trinity was closing its ears to what was happening. We marched around the block, and I realized that, my goodness, they're carrying a ladder. And I thought, well, this is the moment. You could feel a spiritual presence. You could feel a certain something. And then the cops came in. It got brutal.
I'm with you right here. Robin, I'm here.
The church needed, in this moment in history, to stand alongside of these protesters. The truth of Christ is found in the pews, is found in the institutional church, but it is also found on the streets. It's found in the honesty and the integrity, the insistence of people that you find in Occupy Wall Street.
Tune in to Gay USA with hosts Ann Northrup and Andy Hum for in-depth coverage of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender news. Watch Gay USA every week, only on Free Speech TV.
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
President Obama, are you fracking kidding me?
Reopen the EPA studies.
In Texas, Wyoming, and Pennsylvania.
Fracking pollutes our oceans.
Fracking poisons our water.
Fracking makes climate change worse.
Fracking relies on toxic chemicals that cause cancer.
Ban fracking now.
Ban fracking now.
Go on. Ban it.
Ban fracking now.
Please.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
Neil King from the Wall Street Journal here the next hour as a friend of Bill, along with Glenn Thrush from Politico. Travis Waldron, a good friend, here in the studio with us from Think Progress Sports. By the way, that little audio we played is Ben Stonium, I said from Boston, no, Pittsburgh. And the website is benstonium.com, turning Pittsburgh upside down. Well, there were videos like that. I'll turn any place upside down. Before we move on, let's say a quick hello to Wayne out in Chicago on WCPT. Hey, Wayne, what do you say?
Hey, hi, guys. How you guys doing?
All right. Good. What's up?
Listen, I loved Tom Brady when he was at Michigan. As soon as he went to New England, he turned into a prima donna.
Oh.
Guys have been on my back for years and years, even before the spine thing with the camera, about how much I hate New England. I tell my guys, they think they're entitled. They think everything's supposed to go their way. Now I just told all my guys I don't want to hear another word about England. Now you understand what I was saying.
Oh, Wayne, you were a man ahead of your time.
That's kind of the enjoyable thing about this, though, to me, is like, one of my roommates is a Patriots fan, and I have a bunch of friends who are Patriots fans. Like, you all can't even fully enjoy this now.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like...
It does take the...
Sort of. I've had fun with it.
All right, now I'll tell you what we enjoy here in Washington, D.C. We got the Nats all the way to the playoffs. The question is, how are we going to get to the World Series and the championship? Maybe we found the answer with this new sign-up of, what's his first name?
Max Scherzer.
Max Scherzer. His reaction, what was the final contract, right?
7 years, $210 million.
Whoa. Wow.
Though he's being paid over 14 years. It's deferred.
Okay, here's his take on it yesterday.
It was jaw-dropping. I mean, you just can't even fathom it sometimes. You work so hard to put yourself in this position, and for me, like I said, it's all about winning. But I don't play this game for money. But yet, at the same time, when you have an offer like that, it just makes you go, "Wow!" So, I'm very fortunate to be in this position. Very fortunate that they want to commit that type of dollar amount to me.
Anybody worth $210 million?
Yes.
Really?
Yes, of course. First off, Max Scherzer plays this game for money. It is a job.
Yeah.
They need to stop talking like that. It's okay that he plays it for money. I like to write. I do it for money.
Okay.
Because I got to pay the bills.
Yeah.
Max Scherzer's got to pay the bills.
All right. But
his bills are probably a little more expensive than mine.
$210 million. He's really that good? He's going to make that big of a difference?
I mean,
that's what they said when they brought in...
We can debate whether individual players are, but yes, Hey, Matt, I don't like long-term pitching deals. 7-year pitching deals generally don't turn out well. Max Scherzer's a great pitcher, and somebody was going to give him this kind of money. And as far as like writ large, yes, the players are worth this kind of money. Mm-hmm. They're generating a lot of money. They're actually worth more. Their share of MLB salaries is dropping. So we need to pay the players more.
But I guess they're willing to pay that much for two reasons. Number one, because he's going to get them to the World Series. And two, he's going to bring fans in. Of course. And they'll all have Scherzer shirts and jackets on and hats.
Of course.
And all that
I mean,
stuff,
I think it's a huge signing business side, but I think this is it depends on what the Nats do going forward. They've got choices. They've talked about trading Jordan Zimmerman and Ian Desmond, because they're both going to be free agents at the end of the year. We'll see what they do. I would like to see them.
The other superstar. Right?
In Strasburg. Sure. I would like to see them keep Scherzer, keep those guys, and go for it. I think they have a chance. And this is going to be a phenomenal pitching rotation.
But they had a great pitching rotation last year.
And now it's
ones that you mentioned.
And now it could be even better.
Him, why dump one of the others, right?
Well, I think it's hard to know. It's hard to know what their long-term plan is because I think this means Jordan Zimmerman's probably not going to be back. And maybe this is a little bit of insurance against that, which is fine. But for this year, that pitching rotation could be
awesome.
Could be nasty.
Yeah.
And, you never know what's going to happen in October. But
they're paying that kind of money. It means the Nats are doing pretty well.
Yeah, they're not struggling.
Yeah, no, exactly. Now, Joe Paterno. So now he is now back as the winningest coach ever, right?
Indeed.
Is that fair after what happened? I mean, what they do? They just kind of sweep it under the rug?
Yeah, I mean, I know this outraged a lot of people. I never really saw the utility of taking the wins away from him. I don't think Penn State being rehabbed as a university, as an institution, as a culture, was contingent on how many wins we attached to Joe Paterno's name. I think the serious parts of what has to happen at Penn State run much, much deeper than that. And I understand the desire to punish them on the football side and to punish him on the football side. I mean, the crimes that took place there were unconscionable.
Right.
And the fact that he knew or should have known more than he did and didn't do anything about it is unconscionable.
Knew and didn't do anything. Yeah.
And we shouldn't reward that. I understand that view. I would rather I think I would rather focus on making sure that at Penn State and at other places that this type of stuff doesn't happen again. And I think that runs far deeper than how many, whether it's 409 wins or 309 wins that we attach to Joe Paterno.
Yeah, it just seems to me that they're almost rewarding bad behavior, or they're
and I understand that view.
Saying, it really didn't happen. Yeah,
I understand that view. I think
we were wrong. We changed our mind.
Right, but I guess my position is I think the wins, the issue over the wins and what they were going to do about that kind of became kind of this side issue in the Penn State case in the last couple of years. And to me, it's like, let's focus on the larger piece here, which is what happened and how are we going to make sure that doesn't happen again at Penn State or anywhere else.
All right, finally, circling back, I know you don't care necessarily. Seahawks versus the Patriots?
I think the Patriots are going to win.
Really?
I do.
Even with overinflated balls?
Can they adjust to their properly inflated balls?
Seahawks are...
I think the Seahawks are really good. I think it's going to be a great Super Bowl, but we thought it was going to be a great Super Bowl last year, and the Seahawks came out and blew the Broncos' doors off. So, my hunch is the Patriots. I think the Patriots' offense has been playing really well. Mm-hmm. But we'll see. It'll be a good game.
Hey, Travis, great to see you, man.
You too.
Thank you. Lots to talk about today.
Thank you.
It was a lot of fun. I'll be back and tell you quickly where the president's up to today.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Well, what do you know? Hour number 2 almost up, ready to move into hour number 3. And we've got a good one for you as always. So you'll be able to watch us delayed on Free Speech TV at 5 p.m. Eastern, 4 Central, 2 Pacific. Or you can watch right away here live on our video stream, youtube.com/TawkrTV. 2 of the best journalists in Washington, D.C. coming up in the 3rd hour. Neil King from the Wall Street Journal and Glenn Thrush from Politico. You won't want to miss that. We'll see you in hour number 3 coming up.
A few years ago, plastic bag waste in our city came to a tipping point. It was clear we had a bag problem. My department was tasked to reduce plastic bag consumption. We needed to come up with ways to change human behavior. So we asked ourselves,
would you like it back?
What do people really hate?
Yep.
Getting punched in the stomach. Preliminary studies showed that the consequences weren't severe enough to warrant behavioral change.
Actually, can I get that double bagged?
So we thought, what do people hate more than getting punched in the stomach? Kissing Helga.
Hey, big boy.
People didn't find her so offensive after all, so we had to get creative.
How many bags? Okay, now, pour this ice water down your pants.
We tried everything.
Eat this rat. Defuse this bomb.
Even fighting your clone. After blowing through millions of dollars of government funds on research, I came up with a brilliant idea.
Why don't we just charge 5 cents per bag?
That's a stupid idea.
Would you like a bag?
Yes.
5 cents a bag.
5 cents? 5 cents? Do I still have the option of getting punched?
Honestly, I don't know how everyone else missed it.
Why don't you just get a reusable bag?
This is the Bill Press Show.
Neil King from the Wall Street Journal here as a friend of Bill for the next hour. We'll be joined by Glenn Thrush from Politico. President Obama is out in Lawrence, Kansas this morning. He is giving a speech at the University of Kansas, but not until about 11:25 Kansas time this morning. You bet with some free time like that on the schedule, the president, he's not just going to sleep in. He'll work out this morning, and I would expect that he will make some unscheduled stop to some famous local breakfast place out in the Lawrence, Kansas area. Then he'll be coming back to the White House, getting back to the White House about 5 o'clock this afternoon. We'll be back with Neil King.
This is the Bill Press Show.
West here reporting from Houston, Texas for Climate Desk. Now, one of the biggest uncertainties in climate science right now is the role of clouds. What better way to work that part out than flying right through them? That's what NASA scientists aboard this airplane think. Welcome to NASA's biggest airborne laboratory. You're coming with us today on an 8-hour NASA flight mission.
When you read these big IPCC climate assessments, what's the biggest uncertainty? There's two, right? The role of aerosols and clouds. Clouds is probably bigger than aerosols.
That is a piece of a puzzle that right now we are missing.
You can't get the models right if you don't understand the chemistry and the process.
Now we're being told we've got to get on. The doors are about to shut, so let's go aboard. Every time you turn on the weather, every time you hear a climate change prediction, that information has to come from somewhere. And it starts by getting sucked out of the air from planes like this.
So this mission is to try to understand the emissions from the surface, so mostly biogenic emissions. So from trees and other plants.
Right now we're flying to our very first part of this experiment on the DC-8. Over Arkansas, there's a particularly pungent bouquet of emissions that scientists are interested in measuring.
Well, these emissions lead to both aerosols and to molecules that both destroy and create ozone. So these are very important things to understand for climate studies.
how it will manifest itself. It will be in more accurate and more reliable predictions.
So what we're doing is taking a series of flyovers, each at a different level of the atmosphere, scooping up those emissions, testing them, and hopefully scientists are going to see exactly what's in this column of air all the way up.
The data that we collect in one flight can keep busy 60 scientists and students for 3 years, 4 years. We're still studying data from data collected 20 years ago.
In fact, this particular mission today is its most heavily equipped in its nearly 30 years of service. Each one of these consoles here is a specially equipped scientific instrument designed to collect all sorts of different data in real time.
And this instrument here tracks the sun.
We're looking at mist chambers. They're used to strip soluble gases.
This black line is the CO2. It's about 390 ppm right now. We're putting these filters in the bags and we've got the aerosols that we trapped out of a certain amount of air. And so we're sampling up here about 150 liters a minute.
That ultimately flows back into the operational models. It flows back into what goes on TV every day.
Anyway, I got to get this sample going.
You do it. It's a busy man at work. We can't let him rest. Well, get this. We've just spent 2 hours crisscrossing this one cloud formation. In, back out again, back in again.
Then they grow, and we track them as long as we can, and then we let it go.
Even one cloud can hold a host of answers to the mysteries of climate change.
The patterns of, where the clouds are, what type of clouds we see, what kind of weather systems they're associated with it, that'll all be shifting in a shifting climate, in a world with climate change.
Then the big spark is this, is when we actually get the meat on the grill. And then it will be some time to process it.
The most important issue on this planet right now is to protect and conserve biodiversity in the world's oceans. And I don't think people realize just how intimate our connection is with the oceans themselves. Not only do they provide the very foundation of life and control our weather, but life just simply could not exist without a healthy ocean. The real problem, though, is apathy. It's all out of sight, it's all out of mind, and people don't even think about it. But it doesn't matter whether you live in Peoria or on the coast. The fact is, whatever happens in the ocean affects all life forms on the planet Earth. If the oceans die, then civilization collapses. We all die. We cannot live on this planet without the oceans. This is, in fact, not the planet Earth. It's the planet ocean, but because we're a land-dwelling species, we refer to it as Earth. But it is the planet ocean, and the oceans are the heart and the foundation of all life on the planet.
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
President Obama, are you fracking kidding me?
Reopen the EPA studies.
In Texas, Wyoming, and Pennsylvania.
Fracking pollutes our oceans.
Fracking poisons our water.
Fracking makes climate change worse.
Fracking relies on toxic chemicals that cause cancer.
Ban fracking now.
Ban fracking now.
Go on. Ban it.
Ban fracking now.
Please.
2 anti-government, self-described revolutionaries have shot up a pizza restaurant as well as a Walmart in Las Vegas.
The internationally syndicated political series, The David Pakman Show, provides progressive talk, analysis, and interviews with the nation's youngest radio and television host, David Pakman. Find out more and catch up on all the latest episodes by visiting our website at freespeech.org.
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is the Bill Press Show.
All right, now we know they cheated. 11 out of 12 of the footballs the Patriots use, the NFL has concluded, were deflated by a couple of pounds. Yes, indeed. Should they be able to play in the Super Bowl? That's the big question of the day. Hello, everybody. Forget the State of the Union address. We're talking about issues that matter here. It's the Bill Press Show. It's Thursday, January 22nd. So good to see you today. Thank you for joining us as we reach out to you on your local progressive talk radio station nationwide, coast to coast, as we reach out to you on Free Speech TV. I know, a little delayed on Free Speech, 5 Eastern, 4 Central, and live on our video stream worldwide on TawkrTV, youtube.com, the YouTube channel, youtube.com/Tawker, TawkrTV. You know, you're tuning in this hour because you heard he was going to be here. Neil King, who is the new economics editor and deputy Washington bureau chief for the mighty Wall Street Journal, in studio here for the entire hour as a friend of Bill. Hello, Neil.
Good morning. How are you?
Everything good?
Everything
Not
is grand.
only a great journalist here in Washington, but a neighbor on Capitol Hill. So we like to expand our
the
Hill tribe.
Yes, I had to walk 3 blocks.
Not quite 3 blocks, even.
Yeah, that's
I think
2.5.
that's stretching it a little bit.
Right. I think you're right. I think you're right.
I mentioned to you, Peter Ogburn, under the weather today, down for the count, and was actually on his way in here, but felt very sick and ended up going home. So Elisa Murphy has stepped in to
good morning.
handle everything this morning. Elisa, with Alicia Cruz, ready to take your calls at 866-55-PRESS, and Cyprian Balding, our videographer, keeping us looking good on Free Speech TV and on TawkrTV. Are you upset about this Deflategate?
I think upset might be a little much. I'm pretty intrigued by it. I find it amazing. I mean, we're talking about, what is the math, 18% deflation? This is not a small thing. I still find it amazing where it's still not enough somehow for the refs, like in between plays, to actually note the difference. I would think they would.
The linebacker who caught that, caught the interception,
yeah,
is the one who said, "Hey, this feels a little, weird." I guess.
Well, it adds big time just to the general sense that the Patriots are routinely up to no good, and isn't going to add to the general for Bill Belichick, let's say.
For sure.
Which there isn't much of outside of Patriots Nation, I don't think.
Yeah, and it raises a question, okay, if they were to win the Super Bowl, right? It's certainly a 50-50 chance. There'll be this cloud over it. Oh, they only got there because they cheated, right? So,
well, what's amazing? It's okay. So they won this game.
If I were a Boston fan, I'd be pissed at the team for that. I
well, they routed
a clean victory.
Yeah. Well, it was an overwhelming victory at the time. Now clouded by this whole thing.
Yeah.
And so, what do you do? On the one hand, if you cheat and win, the win should be taken back. But they're not going to take back the win, obviously. So you have to penalize them in some way. And so, what's the penalty?
Right. Yeah.
I would assume that there's got to be fairly decent evidence. I don't know, or tape or something that will actually show somebody doing the deflating. I don't know.
And then the question is, how high up the food chain does it go? Who actually depumped them and all that kind of stuff.
Right. Who ordered it?
Yes, right. Oh. We've seen scandals like this.
Follow the money.
Exactly. Another scandal that has sort of disappeared a little bit lately from the news is, somebody accused me of wearing my Bill Cosby sweater this morning.
It's a Cosby sweater.
Neil, so with Cosby, we haven't heard much about him for the last week or so, but Larry Wilmore, of course, who's taken over the Stephen Colbert slot.
Right.
Some pretty edgy comedy. I think he's going to be a great success. And he touched on Bill Cosby last night and the extent of at least his alleged misdeeds. Here's Larry Wilmore.
Women. Really, folks, how many more do we need? 35 allegations. Let's understand this number, okay? That's like if Bill Cosby drugged and raped every single U.S. president from George Washington to John F. Kennedy.
It sort of puts it in perspective.
It does, yeah. It does.
35. I didn't realize it was that many.
I do like the patch of leather you've got on that sweater. That's kind of a cool touch.
Please, no more attention to my Bill Cosby sweater than necessary. Right.
The Bill Cosby collection.
So Neil's here for this. I'll throw it away right after the show. Neil's here for the first half hour, and then we'll be joined by Glenn Thresh, great reporter for Politico as well. And I guess we do have, right, Peter, okay, you ready?
Yes.
This is the Full Court Press.
Peter does the Full Court Press all the time. When he's here, I cannot step into that. But I just do one story, though, that Peter might have given were he here. I just do one at the top of the hour. We learned yesterday, that Senate now Minority Leader Harry Reid did not make the Senate retreat last week in Baltimore with the Senate Democrats because of the injury that he had from working out at home when this rubber band thing, whatever he was working with, snapped and bounced back and hit him in the face pretty seriously. He did not make the State of the Union Tuesday night either. And his office announced yesterday that he's having surgery this next Monday on his right eye to help restore his vision. They're afraid that he may lose his vision in one eye, which would be really tragic, poor guy.
Yeah.
But he's on the job, but just in a limited fashion.
Partly.
Yeah. He broke several ribs and several bones in his face. It was New Year's Day. An exercise band he was using at home broke and snapped back and hit him in the face. I've seen. Did you see the picture of him?
Yeah, it was unbelievable.
Pretty ugly.
Yeah. So.
And then you got Terry McAuliffe.
I was just going to say that. I like that because they sent out the note saying it's not interfering with his work duties. 7 broken ribs doesn't interfere with your work.
Not
a lot of heavy lifting there, evidently.
I've never had a broken rib, but I've injured or whatever, sprained some ribs or something.
Yeah.
There's nothing worse, man.
I know, because you can't really breathe very well.
No. And but so Terry had this. He fell off this horse in Africa somewhere, and then got all the way home before it really started affecting him because he had fluid in his lungs, and that's when they checked him out down in Richmond and slapped him in the hospital. Imagine that flight all the way home with that.
So he just assumed that. I guess he just assumed he'd been bruised a little bit or something like that.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, we have a turkey bowl on Thanksgiving, and 2 years ago we were playing, and some kid came running all the way down. This was at Lincoln Park down the field, and just like head-butted me right in the rib cage, which is one of those and it didn't break a rib, but even that, which was a bruised rib. And it lasted for weeks and was no fun. So to have 7 of them broken, that would not be good.
But remember, Terry McAuliffe is a guy that wrestled an alligator for a campaign contribution early in his career. He's one tough hombre.
We've always known that. Yes.
All right. Reaction, interesting, to the President's State of the Union address. Democrats seemed very, very pleased with everything he proposed, except for the fast-track authority on the trade deal. And Republicans seemed very much against everything he proposed, except the fast-track authority on the trade deal.
Yeah, that'd probably be about right. And I think fast-track on the trade deal is probably the one thing you can count on happening. I mean, I think the likelihood of it not happening is pretty small.
Will enough Democrats vote for it to make it happen? He's going to need some Democratic votes.
Well, in the House, right? I know. We actually did a piece on this yesterday that ran in the paper today, and we were kind of doing the math. I mean, they've got to, obviously the Republicans have a large majority in the House, but I think if they lose something like 19 or something, then they get down to where they need to make up for that in Democrats. So I can imagine them needing anywhere from 12 to 30 Democrats. I think that would probably be 30 would be on the high end. It really depends on, there are those Republicans in the House who just don't like it on principle, aren't too inclined in that direction. Then there's going to be a large group that don't want to give this president any added authority to do anything, really. So there'll be a certain sort of grudge factor there, I think. And then it's a matter of twisting enough arms and cajoling enough people on the Democratic side to bring them around. These votes are always really tight. They're always tight in the House. You've watched these things play out. And they usually come down to like 1 or 2 votes after the time has expired and they're trying to bring somebody back on the other side. I mean, that's been the way with Fast Track or the China trade vote or NAFTA. So now, Mike Froman, the trade rep, is making the rounds. He went and saw Hatch yesterday. They're getting all the cabinet secretaries, Penny Pritzker and other people to make calls to people that are like-minded, evidently. And I don't know. We'll see. It would be a real setback, obviously, for Obama if he couldn't get, a dozen of his own people to back him on this.
What I find maybe not that surprising, because it is Washington, D.C., is it becomes a political issue rather than a constitutional issue. For me, as a member of Congress, I would say I'm not giving the president any of my authority. I mean, grant him executive authority to make a deal that I can't debate. I just have to vote up or down. I'm giving away my constitutional authority, like the war-making authority. And I'm just surprised that more members of Congress don't take that ground. Doesn't matter who's in the White House.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point. And I could see various people on either side, particularly on the Republican side, maybe some of the more libertarian-minded people kind of making that particular argument. The reality is, and the reason that this thing exists, is that we wouldn't have trade deals happen if every member of Congress could kibitz over every last thing and insert all their little things that you would then have to bring back, in this case, to 11 other countries and say, oh, what about this? They would get bogged down in all kinds of infighting. And so this is an acknowledgement that we can't do it.
In your judgment, with your political hat on, was the president putting forth an agenda for the next 2 years or for 2016?
A little bit more of the latter, though. I think we still have to kind of see where things will shake out. I mean, it was obviously a certain kind of pivot and a lot of sort of theater, and then we'll see what the actual reality is. I mean, just yesterday, right after, we saw a different language on whether he and the Republicans might move forward on some sort of corporate tax reform. What strikes me as a little odd in some ways is, so 2016, okay, so if you just think about Obama's legacy, I guess you would say that he would have two things in particular that will really define it. How strong is the economy? How durable is the economy? How well off do people feel? Which is no small thing, because he would have, rebuilt an economy that was in total tatters when he came in. And the other is, does a like-minded Democrat succeed him? And also protects all the things that he's done by executive action, which is a lot of what he's done, and protects Obamacare. So to some extent, if he's laying out things that are about 2016, then that's helping protect the flank of the person that might run and succeed him, Hillary Clinton or whomever.
Right.
On the other hand, there's a different kind of legacy thing, which is, remember the second half of his second term when he did that really daring, gutsy corporate tax reform move with the Republicans. Oh, yeah, that was an amazing side of Barack Obama nobody saw coming, right? So there's the others sort of like finishing his story as president. Oh, and it's amazing how he ended up finally getting that immigration deal done. Nobody saw coming, that he managed to convince Boehner and McConnell that it was the right thing, and he brought the nation together and they did that thing. Or you could list other things like that. But he doesn't seem at the moment to be going down that path. I would have predicted a year ago that if we had had this scenario, and I think it's one of the things that made the idea of McConnell becoming majority leader and the Republicans winning the Senate more interesting was, is there a big compromise brokering, Obama that's been hidden inside him all this time? And I don't think we know yet, but I would say probably not right now.
But clearly, he walked out on that stage. Looking at him on that stage Tuesday night, you would not know that Democrats had just got the worst shellacking they've had, in modern times, and that the entire crowd in front of him that was controlled by Republicans. He ignored Mitch McConnell, didn't congratulate him, never said, "Hey, we're bloody," but no allusion to that at all. He looked like he was he acted as if I'm still in charge, and here's my agenda, and like it or not, here it is. It was almost defiant.
It was. He's buoyant in large part because the economy is doing very well and has done really distinctly well since November, which in a humorous way, as I'm sure you've talked about, McConnell was actually trying to lay claim to, well, the economy is looking up because we won in November.
Right.
But, the thing about Obama is he is at heart a loner. I mean, and we've always known that about him, and I think he marks his own success in a much narrower, not necessarily all about him, but that great moment when he turned to them when they were laughing and applauding over, he won't run for election again, and he said, "Well, I did win twice."
Yeah.
But that's his measure. I won twice. I did it twice. Look what I did. You never saw that happen. And the me is that. It's not my party. Meanwhile, just got shellacked a few months ago. I don't think that's big in his mind, really.
I know the sort of the standard course is you don't talk about any private conversations with the president, but I have so few of them. But at the Christmas party, when I had a chance to do the photo line and everything, I think I saw you there.
Yeah, definitely.
And I joked with him and I said, don't let anybody tell you you're a lame duck. And he said, "Am I acting like one?" Which is his way of saying, "I know it, I'm not." And I said, "No, you're not, and that's good, right?" I kind of keep it up. But I thought we certainly saw that in the State of the Union. I want to ask you whether you buy his premise that the economy is so sound and so strong today. When we come back, Neil King with us here from the Wall Street Journal, WSJ.com, of course, economics editor. Nobody better to ask her about what's the state of the economy. We'll be right back. You want to weigh in, do so at 866-55-PRESS.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
Grunt work. Love it, hate it, useful, not useful?
Necessary.
Our social entrepreneurs are people who have been on the front lines of social change. I've learned so much from talking with them. This is Cafe Impact, and I'm Jonathan Lewis.
I will say that I think is a challenge for anyone, especially the new workforce as they come in, is the ability to accept grunt work with grace.
The most boring, awful details are the most important elements of doing this work. From the way you save names in your Rolodex to the way you bank and you deposit checks. The truth is, this work isn't glamorous, it's rewarding. You don't go into this for the glamour, you go into it for the impact. And so it takes that determination to do the scut work to actually get anywhere.
It can be really challenging in a first job for someone who's coming out of finishing school to have the enthusiasm that they do to make the type of social impact that they've dreamed of. And now they're here in this first job and all of a sudden they're shouldered with all this grunt work. And they don't understand and they don't get it and they're resentful.
Talk more about the power of answering phones.
Sure, I did that myself, took out the trash, cleaned offices when I had to, and it's all good. There's power in being a good team player and in being somebody who sometimes has to support other people's leadership before you get to have your own moment in the sun.
Is it hard to wait?
It is absolutely hard to wait, especially if you're an alpha female like I am.
I think grunt work can help a new employee build trust internally and teach them the nuances of how an organization is run so that they can have a real good sense of what HR is doing, what finance is doing, what all the other departments are, and that actually makes them a better employee in the long run.
So in my role on a daily basis, I literally can be looking at a new venture in software. We could be looking at a microfinance deal. I could be making coffee, taking out the trash, and riding a tractor on any given day.
Have you found people who thought it was demeaning that they were given this job, work in the front office and make the coffee when they graduated with all A's from this great university?
Yeah, people like that just don't last very long in our world. If your approach to life is that, you're so smart and you're such a fabulous entrepreneur that you can't understand why people aren't giving you opportunities, it's really hard to advance.
Tune in to Gay USA with hosts Ann Northrup and Andy Hum for in-depth coverage of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender news. Watch Gay USA every week, only on Free Speech TV.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
This is the Bill Press Show.
We're going now 26 minutes after the hour with Neil King from the Wall Street Journal. Glenn Thrush from Politico joins us in a little bit. So, Neil, the president's premise is that we've bounced back and we still have a way to go. He admits that. But we're strong enough today that, as he put it, we are freer to write our own future than any other country on the planet. And, of course, then he writes the future. He gives his idea about future. But the premise that is he on solid ground when he says, we have a solid foundation now?
Yeah, he is, and he isn't sort of at the same time. I mean, by all kinds of markers, we are better off now than we were certainly when he came into office. In a lot of ways, the economy has come back to where it was before the recession.
Right. So we can build again, basically.
Yeah, I mean, even if you look at the markers of revenues coming in and the spend, of course, we're not just in terms of the federal balance sheet, it's also really turned around, and that's something that's important. And when he talks about what can we do next, it's about how much money is coming in and how much is going out. But on the other hand, there are real weaknesses in this economy and real mysteries that continue, particularly on, all right, great, but where are the wages? Because the actual mean real wages have declined under his presidency. They've actually basically declined for the last two presidencies. Something kind of broke a little bit in the economy in that way in the early 2000s when we came out of that recession. This has been a second recovery that has not had certain things come with it, particularly on the wage side. Also, which would make sense, the spending hasn't really come back in the way consumer spending that it was before. When he talks about other countries, he's right. But it's also something that's a little bit scary in that, the U.S., remarkably, for considering it's a advanced economy and a fairly old one on the demographic scale, is still growing faster than any of the European countries by far, almost twice the pace of what's happening in Germany, and doing better maybe even in some ways than China is. But there's a lot of weakness overseas is the problem.
Yeah.
And we don't know when it might swamp what's going on here.
But he certainly painted it as he was full of optimism, and this is a time of great opportunity. So, Neil King with us and Glenn Thrush joining us. Coming up next
is the Bill Press Show.
This is my computer.
This is your computer. Let's go on the internet.
Let's go. Click it.
Yes.
Okay.
I cursor in between the R and the E. Pressing dot, I want you to just push the period.
She's gonna love me all over again.
That's it. Jamaica, here you go.
Here we go.
Good job.
Thank you. Thank you. And I did it by myself. Feel smarter.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
Same time next week?
Well, of course.
Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Hey, thanks for stopping by. You know, I followed your character since the first episode. I'm a big fan. Big fan.
Thank you.
And listen, your storyline, it makes for incredible TV drama. Thing is, your drug use is very adult content. Too adult for the kids. So I'm gonna have to block you.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Well, have a good one.
You're a nice lady.
The most valuable morning radio show, according to The Nation magazine. This is The Bill Press Show.
All right, 33 minutes after the hour. How about it? On a Thursday, January 22nd, 2 days now after the State of the Union address. We're talking a lot about that here with Neil King from the Wall Street Journal, economics editor and deputy Washington bureau chief. We are live at our studio on Capitol Hill, Washington, D.C., brought to you today by the National Education Association, the great teachers of America, under their president, Lily Eskelsen Garcia, creating great public schools for every student in America. You bet, President Obama, one thing he's talking about in the State of the Union is giving them all 2 free years of community college. Watching the State of the Union with all the rest of us, our good friend from Politico, who's also been writing about how much of this, all these ideas, Neil, we can see or can expect maybe to get through Congress. Glenn Thrush, senior staff writer. Hello, Glenn. How are you?
Good. I'm washing.
You're yeah.
Putting it back through the spin cycle.
That's right. Oh my God. I'm sitting in just one of those old galvanized tubs right now, like in the old West.
You have your hat on?
I do have my hat on.
I got a mental image now.
All right.
Can't unthink that, man.
All right. So there we go. The president puts forth what you would have to say, maybe except with the fast track authority, a very bold, progressive agenda in front of the United States Congress. How much of this is going to see the light of the day, Glenn, do you think?
Well, look, I think it was sort of the honey badger agenda, right? And I think everyone sort of talks, and the thing that I really hate about the post-game analyses on these things is, everyone sort of goes up and down and says, does the president have the votes necessarily to get the community college thing done? Will he be able to impose the new capital gains tax? I think that's entirely beside the point. What he's trying to do here is to create a political environment which Republicans are on their heels, being forced to defend policies that even the majority of their own constituents, oppose. And like when you look at the minimum wage increase, it is just one of those few economic solutions in this country that a majority of Republicans support. And there's like something, correct me if I'm wrong, you guys probably know the numbers better than me, but the sort of likely voter support of a minimum wage increase, for instance, is north of 60 and nearly 70%. The same thing with the community college proposal. I was told, it's just off the charts in focus groups. So what the president was doing is just force-feeding Republicans a list of economic solutions in an improving economic climate in which he is getting more credit to flip the script from 2 months ago.
Very interesting, because they are the agenda sort of changed from Keystone or medical device tax or whatever, that now they're all being put on the spot, Neil, about what the president proposed. I thought it was very telling in watching the speech when he mentioned minimum wage, and the Republicans just sat there.
Yeah.
I mean, what's wrong with raising the minimum wage that Republicans feel so strongly about it?
Well, I'd be interested in Glenn's thoughts on that.
George Bush.
Yeah, one thing that's fascinating is that, I mean, this isn't totally unusual, but where the president, the White House, has gone out and seen what's going on in various states in the community college census, which is something that they've put forward in Tennessee, Republican governor, free community college. Grabbed the thing, said, okay, let's nationalize it. But even knowing it's not likely to become actually nationalized, but with the hope that whatever rhetorical pressure or actual pressure that they can exert will then start to spread among the states, which is what's exactly happened with the minimum wage. They've taken what's obviously a federal thing anyway, but then they've said, all right, it's already happening. And where they can claim credit now is look what has happened all over in all these various states. And we now have more than, I think, about half or more than half the states are over now the federal minimum wage. It's not the best scenario, but on the other hand, that's kind of how economics work. It's not, now Cuomo is talking about lifting the minimum wage in New York City, I think, to $11.50, and the overall New York state minimum wage is something like $10. New York's a more expensive state than Mississippi is.
Right,
So
he's going to have a problem seeing as his prime partner in terms of passing anything is being frog-walked out in chains, Shelley Silver.
This morning, right.
But you're right about Tennessee. I mean, Haslam in Tennessee, who I spent a little bit of time with over the summer when on a visit to Memphis. I mean, the situation on the ground, and let's be just brutally honest here. The issue that we're talking about, and a lot of the genesis of economic dissatisfaction in this country are white working class males, particularly in kind of the Appalachian and the center part of the country, and that community college proposal is enormously appealing to that demographic to the extent in which I think you're going to start seeing Midwestern and even upper South governors figure out some way to replicate this, even if it can't be done at the national level.
Yeah, I'd be amazed if we didn't see by the time Obama leaves the White House that this concept is spread across a number of states.
Well, I've been told by some of the people at the White House, that not publicly but privately, that they're happy if they start a conversation among the states to get things done, because they don't expect to get that much through Congress.
It just makes me wonder if that in the end is going to be one of the measures of success that this president will have, is not necessarily having done these big, I mean, he's obviously done some big sweeping national things like, the Health Care Act, but even in that case, there were then a whole bunch of things that were part of that, like the Medicaid expansion, that have then had to happen on the will of the states themselves, and there have been a number of things that are going to be, that either have been like that or will going forward, and that could be one of the interesting things that we could measure.
Yeah, it's funny, for a president who's from Hawaii, he's pretty good at surfing. I don't know if he can actually do it, and I think I think the template is really when you start looking at same-sex marriage and also marijuana legalization. He's just sort of been able he's just on the right side of history on a lot of these things. And the Republicans, I think it was really striking to see the Republicans sitting there monochromatically, pouting as he was just layering popular proposal after popular proposal. I thought that's why I think it was the strongest State of the Union that he ever gave.
I do too. I was impressed with, or at least intrigued by, the phrase, we never heard the words income inequality. Instead, we heard middle-class economics. I think he used that phrase 4 times.
I believe that it's Schumerian in his use of and Clintonian, Bill Clintonian in his use of that.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because they put out the speech in a sort of odd way, like 20 minutes before the actual speech, so all of us could just start doing the word searching and stuff, and he used the word inequality once, and everybody had talked about this is going to be an income inequality speech. Well, it was in a way, but he didn't hammer on the theme. No. He used the word opportunity, I think, 5 or 6 times. So it was not heavily emphasizing income inequality, but talking about a lot of things that at least he thinks would help mediate.
And he did mercifully not use the words bread bags over shoes, which I think was. I mean, the striking thing was that I actually thought Joni Ernst, who gave the new senator from Iowa, the former military person, and a very strong sort of conservative candidate who ran an excellent campaign last year. I thought her rebuttal was generally, I thought, pretty good. But what was striking about it was, her largest sort of economic proposal was the Keystone Pipeline. And I think when that is kind of when that's the kind of dinghy that you're going to see in, I wouldn't feel too confident if I were the Republicans.
I must say, I thought one of his best lines was when he just said, I'm paraphrasing here too, but basically, instead of worrying about one silly little pipeline, why don't we do rebuild the whole infrastructure in this country? Then we're really talking big jobs, right? It's just a way of belittling, I think, that proposal.
I mean, the pipeline was kind of irrelevant. It has been for quite a long time anyway. What's amazing, you actually talk to oil and gas producers, including folks that are up in the way north in North Dakota. There's like an astonishing lack of real interest in that pipeline, which is entirely a Canadian thing and would help them. And now with oil prices being where they are, it's like even less relevant. I mean, it's amazing that she would have devoted as much time, Joni Ernst, as she did in her speech to something that's just become this hugely ideologically important thing in Washington that's not really that important anywhere else.
But that's the thing, guys. I mean, and this is the real challenge for the 2016 field on the Republican side. These guys are addicted. Guys and girls are addicted to talking to the base. They're talking to their funders. They're so used to having a conversation in their own room, they lose. They just lose the perspective. I really do feel, and it is why it is interesting to see. You can laugh at Mitt Romney all you want. You can make fun of him and Jeb Bush as well. I mean, at least these guys are talking about poverty and income inequality, as jarring as it is to hear them say it.
Yeah.
Now, Glenn, I've got to ask you. You just did a great profile for John Boehner in Politico magazine. So how does Boehner react to this? He's got McConnell in the Senate now. He knows he's got 2 more years now. He's got a little legacy question, I'm sure, of his own. Does he want to get some things done? Will he seize the opportunity? What's your take on him?
I think in the profile, one of the really interesting things going in, a lot of people think John Boehner is the worst speaker in the history of Congress. I think, time will judge him, and I think really the next 2 years will be the judge of that. But he's got this kind of rope-a-dope Montessori school philosophy of running things. He feels that if he gives the Tea Party contingent, probably where we're talking about between 40 and 80 people, kind of free reign to do what they want, eventually they'll do the right thing. So far it's been chaos and economic catastrophe, but he seems to think that this is the way to do things, at least to preserve his leadership. In terms of his agenda, I would say it is the most noteworthy switch that has occurred in the new Congress is Paul Ryan at Ways and Means. I think Ryan and Boehner are intent on doing some sort of significant, and Neil can speak to this too, some significant tax deal. I think you saw it also. I thought one of the more interesting and overlooked moments of the president's speech was when he was talking about taxes. They flashed on Paul Ryan and Fred Upton, another member of Boehner's team, in a real conversation. It appeared that Ryan was actually sort of listening to what the president was saying and pivoting off of it. I am interested to see what they roll out. They had a very indecisive Republican caucus conference in Hershey Park the other week. I'd be very interested to see if they come forward with some proposal that the White House could at least consider.
Right.
Yeah, I was really struck, the next morning on Morning Joe, Paul Ryan comes out and just had the most sort of upbeat, conciliatory, applause-based sort of appraisal of what the president, and a lot of it was tone. He was you could tell that he was particularly trying to read, like, all right, what kind of president are we going to be dealing with? And he kind of liked what he saw, which was sort of striking considering his prominence.
Neil, Glenn, I was struck by that shot as well when they panned over to Ryan and Upton. And as I recall, Ryan was actually nodding his head a little bit, like saying, this is what we got to go. And it reminded me of the Samuel Alito thing a couple of years ago. It was just the opposite, right? And I thought, whoa.
Well, and that was the point of the Boehner piece to some extent, which is, there are serious guys on the Republican side in the House, and we've been sort of like used to looking at the Louis Gohmerts and the Michelle Bachmans and the Virginia Foxes, who, by the way, I thought another precious moment was Virginia Fox trying to get President Obama's autograph, right?
Yeah.
But I think, they really turned it over to the clown car contingent, and I think now there really are a bunch of serious legislators over there who have a sense of wanting to use, because their time is short. You know, the gravitational pull of 2016, particularly if Hillary emerges as anything approaching a strong candidate, and the economy keeps revving up, the gravitational pull of 2016 is going to continue to pull the American people further and further away from the Tea Party.
Mm-hmm.
So you know, you have that combination of serious-minded people, and Fred Upton is another guy who's a serious legislator. If they can get their hands on these bills, and if Boehner, the other striking thing that Boehner said to me was, I want to do a lot of stuff with Democrats. If the Tea Party people rebel, I will pass bills with Democrats. He has done that in the past. I think the fact that he is near the end of the line means that he's going to be more willing to take those risks. But we'll see if he has a spine.
On that optimistic note, Glenn Thrush, thanks so much, man. Great to have you with us.
Guys.
All right, Happy New Year.
See you, Glenn.
All right, thanks, Glenn. At Politico.com. Neil King stays with us, and we'll be right back.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Just this month, my bill was like $138.
Even at one phone call a week cost me $40 to $50 every month.
I am living on a fixed income of SSI, so this is really a great hardship. Families are being punished. When they incarcerate your children, they incarcerate the whole family.
In 2011, the Media Action Grassroots Network, Working Narratives, and Prison Legal News founded the Campaign for Prison Phone Justice, an effort to call on the FCC to address the cost of interstate phone calls. The campaign mobilized prisoners to send hundreds of letters. Advocates and families filled out postcards, met with elected officials, and signed petitions. Partnerships were formed across the political spectrum and with groups in the criminal justice, civil rights, and public interest community. The film distribution company Participant Media and director Ava DuVernay joined the fight through a social action campaign tied to the release of the feature film Middle of Nowhere. In an effort to push the FCC to act, the campaign hosted a historic rally outside of the Federal Communications Commission where for the first time, families of prisoners, elected officials, civil rights and faith leaders came together to call for an end to predatory phone rates.
We're all held captive when predatory phone companies gouge our families.
My son has been incarcerated now for over 10 years, and my husband estimates that in the time we spent over $25,000 on prison phone calls.
My hero's not yours, you probably arrested them. Your schools probably neglected them. They spawn thoughts, you probably infected them. Feed us what you feed us, you can lay us next to them. FBI call it major crimes. Babies making babies cry.
Two anti-government, self-described revolutionaries have shot up a pizza restaurant as well as a Walmart in Las Vegas.
The internationally syndicated political series, The David Pakman Show, provides progressive talk, analysis, and interviews with the nation's youngest radio and television host, David Pakman. Find out more and catch up on all the latest episodes by visiting our website at freespeech.org.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
Oh, here we go now. Closing in on the top of the hour. Neil King here from the Wall Street Journal as our friend Bill. As the president's giving his State of the Union, Neil, and you've been covering this, looking nationwide, governor after governor has been giving their State of the State. Do they sync up?
They do, to the extent that they're all, I looked at especially a number of the State addresses that have been given by prominent Republican governors who may run in 2016. And, they're doing some of the things that Obama did, which is, hey, the economy is markedly better now than it was when I came into office. A lot of these ones came in around 4 years ago, let's say.
Chris Christie can't say that.
Yeah, and it's interesting because Christie is one of the ones where his State of the State address was both kind of glum in some ways, where it's like everybody likes to pick on New Jersey, and we're not all that bad after all. And then had a lot of these sort of sweeping national themes of we have to get beyond the pettiness of Washington. This is a nation beset by anxiety, and we need to have a stronger kind of bipartisan creative spirit that'll overcome that anxiety, things like that. It's interesting, though. You look like Scott Walker, for instance. He gave his a week ago. Rick Snyder of Michigan gave his the same night, actually, as Obama did on Tuesday night. Both, all three of the governors we've just talked about, I think it was fairly possible that Scott Walker of Wisconsin will run for president. I think that's pretty certain. He's got some real budget challenges in front of him. He's got kind of an okay story to tell on the state front. Snyder also has some difficulties now out of Michigan that have kind of come up suddenly. Chris Christie has a lot of different problems, a bunch of downgrades of the credit rating of the state, a huge problem with the state pension fund. Their highway fund is like really in the hole. And governors have to run on the story of their state. And they have to say that's the reason to be an executive like that. This is what I did. This is what happened in the place I did it. And Christie has his merits, and there's certain people that like him. But if you can't tell a good story from what you did for your state during the time you were governor, that really handicaps you.
Yeah. Don't forget Rick Perry, who's no longer governor, but he's going to have to run on his record in Texas, too. And
he actually has a pretty interesting story to tell. I mean, though, of course, the downturn in gas prices and oil prices might affect that at the end, but he's out now. He can kind of put a stamp on what he did. He's actually got one of the best stories that there is to tell, depending on whether you like the plot.
Or if he can remember it. Nasty shot. Hey, Neil, great to see you. Thanks
Very
so much
good to see
for coming
you.
in, all right? The first of many appearances, we hope, in 2015. Thank
Definitely.
you.
That's a resolution.
At WSJ.com, I'll be back with a quick parting shot.
This is the Bill Press Show.
It is possible to read the history of this country as one long struggle to extend the liberties established in our Constitution to everyone in America. In other words, who, according to our laws and culture, gets to be considered a person? The law creates legal personhood, and movements create law and change culture. So, how have the courts passed laws to shape our culture? That history goes way back before Citizens United. 1819, Dartmouth College versus Woodward, Supreme Court case, turned a corporate charter from a government-granted charter to a contract. This ruling gave corporations standing within the Constitution. 1886, Santa Clara County versus Southern Pacific Railroad. Though the court did not rule on corporate personhood, the decision was subsequently cited as a precedent to hold that a private corporation is entitled to the same 14th Amendment rights of due process and equal protection as human beings. This makes it impossible for us to make laws that treat local businesses any differently than giant multinational corporations, even if their business practices are deemed to be harmful to workers, the environment and communities, or if they have a history of violating the law. Hale versus Henkel, 1906. The court granted corporations the Fourth Amendment search and seizure protection. Dodge versus Ford Motor Company, 1919. The Michigan Supreme Court says the business corporation is organized and carried on primarily for the profit of the stockholders. Stockholder primacy is established. The purpose of the corporation, according to the court, is no longer to serve the public good, as it had been. It is now to maximize profit for shareholders above all else. Pennsylvania Coal Company versus Mahon, 1922. Corporations get the Fifth Amendment takings clause, meaning if you pass a regulation that impacts a corporation's ability to make a profit, that is deemed a taking, and they can sue for the right to future profits lost. This creates a chilling effect, and local and state governments become much more hesitant to pass laws in the public interest for fear that corporations can claim loss of potential profits that cities and states will be on the hook to pay. Buckley versus Vallejo, 1976. The Supreme Court rules that spending money to influence elections is protected under the First Amendment, in effect saying that money is speech. Citizens United versus Federal Election Commission, 2010.
Today, the Supreme Court of Chief Justice John Roberts declared that because of the alchemy of its 19th century predecessors in deciding that corporations had all the rights of people, any restrictions on how these corporate beings spend their money on political advertising are unconstitutional.
The court's ruling threatens to undermine the integrity of elected institutions across the nation. It's a rejection of the common sense of the American people.
Press Show.
Yep, President Obama gave the State of the Union Tuesday night, but guess who stole the show yesterday morning? Vice President Joe Biden on Good Morning America. George Stephanopoulos asked him if he might think about running for president in 2016, and the vice president said, yes, there's a chance. I haven't made up my mind about that yet. We got a lot of work to do between now and then. There's plenty of time, which caused a lot of Democrats to scream, what? How can he do that? This is Hillary's turn. To which I respond, why the hell shouldn't he run? Joe Biden's every bit as qualified to be president as Hillary is, maybe even more. He'd make a great president, and there's no reason that Hillary should be handed the nomination without having to face a good, strong challenge in the primaries. So let's all say, all together now, go, Joe, go. That's it for today, folks. Have a great Thursday. Come back again tomorrow morning. We'll be looking for you.
Press Show.